gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, head on the 11 o'clock hour BPR. We're not at the library. Former New York mayor and Cambridge kid, by the way, Bill de Blasio, is our first guest today, here to weigh in on the race for his former job leading the largest city in America. In September, he endorsed the Democratic candidate, progressive Zohran Mamdani. We'll talk about his hope for the future, both for New York and for his fellow Democrats around the country.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then we open the phone and text lines for your thoughts on what that city, New York City's mayor's race, means for the Democrats' future. Is Zohran Mamdani the answer to an establishment party led astray, corrupted by billionaire donors constantly ignoring needs of everyday working people? Or do you think this democratic socialist streak is just another way to hand Republicans the White House again in 2028? Weigh in or text the 11 o'clock hour at BPR, GBH, and any PM.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. A massive Category 5 hurricane continues to strengthen before it is expected to slam into Jamaica. Hurricane Melissa's top sustained winds are 185 miles per hour. NPR's Ada Peralta reports the storm's effects are already being felt on the island.
Center warns the damage in Jamaica will be catastrophic. A Hurricane Hunter aircraft found its central pressure drop. The lower the pressure, the stronger the storm, which makes Hurricane Melissa extraordinary. Meteorologists say only 6 other Atlantic hurricanes have been this strong when measured by pressure. The only comparison in Jamaican history is Hurricane Gilbert, which made landfall as a Category 4 in 1988. The Jamaican government says 3 people have already been killed in preparation for this storm. They were killed in accidents involving tree trimmings. Ada Peralta, NPR News, Mexico City.
Japan's first female prime minister met with President Trump today in Tokyo. NPR's Anthony Kuhn reports that Sanae Takaichi worked to build rapport with Trump and to manage pressures coming from Washington.
Prime Minister Takaichi played up her role as protege of the late ex-Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and entertained and flattered Trump much as Abe did during Trump's first term. She gifted him one of Abe's golf putters, served him American beef and rice, and said she'd nominate him for a Nobel Peace Prize. The two governments issued a list of prospective investments that could be part of the $550 billion in investments Japan promised in exchange for lower U.S. tariffs. President Trump's next and last leg of his journey will take him to South Korea for a regional economic summit and expected bilateral meetings with the leaders of China and South Korea. Anthony Kuhn, NPR News, Seoul.
NPR and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting are pitted against each other in court today over who should operate a satellite system for American public radio stations. NPR's David Folkenflik reports it is a sign of how frayed relations became as President Trump pressured the CPB not to send money to NPR. A note, David's reporting is independent of NPR's corporate or news leadership.
The Corporation for Public Broadcasting funneled federal subsidies to public media for more than a half century until Republican leaders in Congress and President Trump successfully pulled back all such funds this summer. NPR's legal team is presenting evidence in court that back in the spring, the corporation reneged on plans for a separate contract for the satellite system to curry favor with administration officials. The radio network alleges that CPB's decision, made in a futile effort to save itself, violated NPR's free speech rights. CPB says it gave the contract to a consortium of major stations who would better serve the public radio system. David Folkenflik, NPR News.
The federal government shutdown is nearly a month old. Congress still cannot agree on a spending measure that would end it. This is NPR.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Boston Mayor Michelle Wu gives the city's first ever State of the Schools address tonight. NBC 10 reports the mayor's expected layout, ambitious goals, set high academic expectations, and push for progress for the oldest public school district in the country. And according to the city's website, Wu will also use the time to celebrate Boston's educators at a time, as she puts it, when public education is under attack. Look for her to address the issue of MCAS as well. Mayor Wu will deliver her speech at 7 p.m. at the Josiah Quincy Upper School in Chinatown. Meanwhile, Boston school leaders are proposing a new admission policy for the elite secondary schools that would remove some factors that help diversify their campuses. Globe reports that it's a way of dealing with the Trump administration's crackdown on race, diversity, and inclusion. The Boston Public Schools proposal reignites the debate over who gets to attend Boston's most competitive schools. Less than 5 years ago, amid national reckoning on race, Boston school leaders were cheered for approving an admissions policy to diversify Boston Latin and its other exam schools. It was considered a win for racial equity. In sports, the Bruins host the Islanders at the Garden tonight, and after 6+ hours and 18 innings, the Blue Jays and Dodgers are back at it again tonight in Game 4 of the World Series. LA leads 2-1. Mostly cloudy, 52 degrees today. We are at 50 outside our studios here in Brighton. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Eric and Wendy Schmidt through the Schmidt Family Foundation, working toward a healthy, resilient, secure world for all. On the web at theschmidt.org. This is NPR.
Houston Browdy, I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We are not at the Boston Public Library today or tomorrow. We apologize. We hope to be back there soon. We'll let you know. The Attorney General, Andrea Campbell, will be with us November 4th at 11 o'clock. The Mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, November 18th. And the famed legendary cellist Yo-Yo Ma will be with us November 19th, and he's going to perform with us as well. Hello, Jim.
Hey there, Marjorie. How are you?
Good.
So in America's largest city, where I lived for 15 years, Zohran Mamdani has emerged as the frontrunner against former Governor Andrew Cuomo and the guy from the Guardian Angels, Curtis Sliwa, the Republican. Mamdani's campaign has skyrocketed in national prominence. He's focused on affordability for New Yorkers, a self-proclaimed democratic socialist, and if elected, will be the first Muslim mayor of New York City. Candidates took shots at each other in their final debate the other night, Cuomo and Sliwa ganging up on Mamdani in that debate. Here's just a little taste of that.
We heard from Donald Trump's puppet himself, Andrew Cuomo.
Not everything is a TikTok video.
Zohran, stop dealing with fantasy and start dealing with reality. What is your opinion, Zohran?
Yes or no?
Come on.
Yes or no?
What is your opinion? Yes or no, Zohran?
That was sort of like Hillary Clinton and Trump. You're a puppet. No, you're a puppet. No, you're a puppet. In any case, we're joined now on Zoom audio by someone Mayor of New York and actually running the city itself, former Mayor Bill de Blasio, Mayor of New York City from 2014 to 2021, also ran for president in 2020. He has endorsed Mamdani in the current mayor's race. Much more importantly, though, de Blasio also joins the likes of Patrick Ewing, E. Cummings, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon as a Cambridge, Rindge, and Latin graduate. Bill de Blasio, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for getting my most important feature right there. And also devoted WGBH listener in my youth.
Whoa, we love that. We're glad to hear.
Thank you very, very much.
You know, everything I learned about life, I learned on public radio, okay?
Love that. We'll be using that actually as a spot, Mayor.
There you go. Thank you. Please do.
We have some good gifts. You can send the mayor a picture of our smug mug where Jim looks very smug on the mug.
I do. We'll be sending it to you.
Send that to you as memorabilia for being with us today. Thank you for joining us. So, Mayor de Blasio, why is Mamdani doing so well? Not things are tighter a little bit now, but he's still ahead. Why do you think?
You know, so many times an election comes down to who has a vision versus who doesn't, who has an aspirational sense of what can be for our city, you know, who's like a likable human being who seems to relate to people. I mean, there's so many classic dynamics here. I think that Zohran has done something extraordinary. He was literally unknown in almost all of the city at the beginning of the year. And by going out to the neighborhoods relentlessly and having an extremely sharp, tight message about affordability, which is exactly what people care about. It's so funny, like pundits and politicians, so many people miss the point. And the Democratic Party missed the point in 2024, bluntly. All that people care about is how they can make ends meet. And Zohran spoke to that relentlessly, boldly, willing to do something different. He clearly was against the status quo, and that all came together in a very powerful way to make people feel him and believe in him.
Yeah, I hope your analysis is the right analysis, but when you look at the field from afar, you have an uncharged sex offender. You have, Curtis Lee was not, in my opinion, not a serious candidate. If he had a candidate of some substance running in this race, do you think Mamdani would be positioned where he is with such a short period of time going to Election Day?
Yeah, because look, he had a Democratic primary against a variety of capable candidates. He really did. There was plenty of other strong candidates in that race. And what's fascinating is almost all of them seem better positioned than him at the beginning of the year. And he had to meticulously develop support and show people a believable vision. The vision's amazing. It's bold, but it's absolutely attainable. A lot of people have said this to me because, for example, I ran on taxing the wealthy so we could do pre-K for all in New York City. At the time, then Mayor Bloomberg said it was impossible and outrageous and would drive rich people out of New York City. We actually managed to pull it off. So one of the things I've said is when Zoran says fast and free buses or creating, some public grocery stores in places that are food deserts, these are real and tangible ideas that can happen. And I think that's part of what happened here. No one else had ideas that captured the public imagination. And I think that would have been true against a wide variety of other candidates.
He also, obviously on his list...
Pre-K is huge. We don't have that yet in Boston. It's a huge improvement. People, where childcare is so expensive, they're going to save thousands when the kid is 4 years old, right?
Tens of thousands nowadays, actually, in many cases. And it's something, honestly, we should have all over the country. We did pre-K for all. That's a universal right in New York City. We've started well on the road to 3K for all, for 3-year-olds as well. And look, someone like Zoran is also talking about ultimately making childcare universal and free over time, right? This is exactly the kind of thing people want to hear because that's where they live, at the kitchen table, trying to pay their bills, trying to take care of their kids, trying to afford to stay in the city they love. And I know Bostonians can relate to that reality. It's like he said things that actually captured people's imagination legitimately.
You probably know that Mamdani has spoken glowingly of Mayor Wu here. And actually, he says you're his favorite living mayor, LaGuardia. Fiorello LaGuardia is his favorite New York City mayor ever.
As it should be. It should be.
She has been attempting to have a fairly modest rent control proposal implemented in Boston, but our do-nothing legislature will not even take it up. He's also proposing a rent freeze. You did a rent freeze for, I think, at least 3 of your years in office. What were the consequences? What was the impact? And were any of the negatives that critics were suggesting what happened, were they realized, Mayor de Blasio?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that the fundamental notion that a group of progressive mayors has emerged around this country in the last decade. I think I was not supposed to be electable, but was able to get there and actually change policy. Michelle Wu as well, amazing what she's done. And I think not so many years ago, people would have said would have been impossible for her to be elected. Mm-hmm. So Zoran's in a tradition, in a sense, and we're seeing it in many cities around the country. I now jump to the same concept of rent regulation, where it has been for years suggested that this is this radical, impossible thing in only a few places. Well, guess what? It actually works in New York City. In my native Cambridge, when it was taken away, Cambridge went from a town with a lot of working class people to a totally unaffordable place.
Yes, it did.
Right? So I think we have to understand that rent regulation legitimately addresses the imperfection of the free market. The free market can produce housing, true, but it doesn't do so well at producing housing for working class people. So this is where rent regulation helps create balance. When we did rent freezes, I did them 3 times. It was after the Great Recession was still lingering in New York, and then we did one during COVID as well, when people were absolutely stressed financially and humanly. I think they provide a lot of relief. They did not, by any stretch of the imagination, destroy the private market in New York City, because if you look at rent levels, they're still sky high, whether we like it or not. It's a tool that should be used according to specific conditions at specific times. And look, some people will say in the affordable housing world, legitimately, that there has to be some way to compensate so they don't end up trying to create affordable housing and not being able to afford to, make it work financially. That's fair. But rent regulation works and is necessary. Rent freezes, when necessary, are a good idea.
Just one side issue about one of the things that I was a rent control lawyer at South Bronx Legal Services when you were a mere lad, Mayor de Blasio. And
we thank you for your service.
Well, thank you kindly. A significant number of us felt then, and I feel now, that things like rent control and obviously rent stabilization is even a bigger section of the housing situation in New York, should be means tested. Why shouldn't it be means tested? It's not.
I think it's a perfectly legitimate idea. I'm not hardline on this. I think the other day during one of the debates, Curtis Sliwa said, well, our housing court system is kind of messed up, and small landlords, like family landlords, are struggling. If someone's not paying the rent, they're struggling to get them out. That's a legitimate concern. Someone who's doing great economically still being in a rent-controlled apartment, that's a legitimate concern. That's actually an achievable reform. But the problem is, what we've often had is people saying that in the guise of trying to destroy the entire concept of rent regulation, right? And look, there's an amazingly funny approach that I've seen from Andrew Cuomo where he attacked Zoran for wanting to freeze the rent for 25% of New York City's population, like it's a bad thing. He says, well, the other 75% don't get that. He's talking about Zoran's going to reach about 2.2 million people if he does a rent freeze. That's a profound act of progressive public policy, again, when needed. So we got to be clear that rent regulation, it's not static. It can be improved. It can be reformed. But don't let anyone try and take away the only thing that's allowing people to actually still live in the city, who are the people who work and make it happen.
We're talking to Bill de Blasio, former mayor of New York City. He's endorsed Zoran Mamdani in this race. So
Mamdani and his wife are apparently paying $2,250 a month for a one-bedroom apartment. I think is there stabilized? I'm not even sure if they're rent stabilized.
Stabilized.
Okay. So if he moves to Gracie Mansion, which would seem like a great idea, that's where the mayor gets to live in New York City, does he lose his rent-stabilized apartment?
That's a great question. I don't happen to know that answer. Mm-hmm. I would note that he's a New York State Assemblyman. They're not exactly wealthy the way they're paid, and he's obviously a very devoted public servant. But I think the bottom line here is that we're having, in a sense, in this country, we're having a conversation that's really off kilter because literally it used to be, New York City was expensive, maybe Boston was expensive, but there's all these other places. I talk to people around the country. Almost everywhere. City is facing an affordability crisis. So are we doing definition of insanity where we're not going to try rent regulation, but people are just going to literally be stressed or be forced out of their cities? And we think it's okay? The private market will not fix this problem itself. It cannot. You have to do something different.
So, Mayor de Blasio, how nice is Gracie Mansion? I don't know. Is it like, the White House that we need to tear part of it down, or you think it's pretty good?
Yeah, no, it's fine the way it is. It has a nice little ballroom. We do not need another one. It was built in 1799.
Wow.
Fiorello LaGuardia actually saved it from being torn down, to his great credit. What's interesting is it's beautiful. It's a lovely thing. It's also kind of strangely antiseptic. It's like living in a museum, and I'm not here to cry about it. I'm saying it's funny. I emotionally struggled with it a little bit because I was used to living in a neighborhood in Brooklyn. I was totally connected to my neighborhood. I was a little league coach, like all these things. And suddenly you're sort of in this compound and it feels like a museum. It's a little strange. It's a blessing, but it's a little strange.
Okay. All right. Thank
you. We're talking to Bill de Blasio. So can we talk about the national implications? As you know, I mean, everybody watching this, I think, or listening to this is aware that Hakeem Jeffries, who represents a piece of New York City, ultimately endorsed, with some caveats, Mamdani the other day. Schumer and Gillibrand, the two United States senators, have yet to do it. Schumer lives in New York City. The concern by the alleged pundits is that if a Democratic socialist is elected in New York City, or a communist, as Donald Trump calls them, is elected, it's a gold mine for Republicans, because they'll make every Democrat Zoran Mamdani. And I know that you will say things like, well, affordability should be the centerpiece of the Democratic Party, but Trump and his allies are pretty skillful at branding people. It's one of his, I think, great skills. Do you worry about the national implications of New York City picking your guy?
No, I feel the other way around, but I just want to praise you for the phrase alleged pundits, which I've never heard before.
No, we're alleged pundits, too. It's not just others we're accusing, believe me.
I will cherish that for the rest of my life. But I love my party. I'm from the progressive wing of the party, but I still love my party. I am deeply distressed that my party has the ability to make the same mistake over and over for decades of falling into the trap. You're exactly right. Being branded, not just by Donald Trump. It happened with Reagan. It happened with W. It happened with Richard Nixon, soft on crime, all this other ridiculousness. But the party doesn't present an alternative vision that helps resist that. More importantly, where Republicans historically cannot go, like healthcare. They've never had a Republican inclusive healthcare plan. In fact, they are constantly trying to undermine Medicaid and even Medicare, and of course, Obamacare. That has been the third rail for Republicans, and yet Democrats somehow don't talk about it sometimes. And then the kitchen table issues. Democrats historically, the party that brought you Social Security, the party that brought you a viable safety net, higher wages, higher benefits, all these things, runs away from its own achievements. So in 2024, with all due respect to Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, people in this country did not hear an assertive, passionate sense of empathy of how hard it was for them to make ends meet, and then new, sharp answers that would help people understand there was some way to get them back to a livable place. I believe in my heart, if you took Zoran's approach and his message and his single-mindedness and passion, and you overlaid it on 2024, if our presidential candidates and our local congressional candidates, et cetera, talked like him, we win that election. I believe it in my heart. And if we talk like him in 2026, we win the midterms. So I actually think Republicans who are smart, and I've actually talked to a few Republicans off record about this, see the danger of a successful Zoran helping Democrats to actually get back to their roots.
Well, I always remember when Donald Trump was running in 2016, the primary up in New Hampshire. Jim and I got to go up there and interview people. And there was a split among some Republicans between Donald Trump.
Uncommitted people, yeah.
And well, some of them were Republicans too, remember? And Bernie Sanders, another Democratic socialist, because he was talking about the same populist message that Trump talked about twice. I would say he didn't deliver on that message, but he talked about it twice. And no one seemed to be that upset about the term socialist, even though that seems to be an issue now. So what do you make of that?
I think Bernie Sanders for years has been the single notion that the word socialism is so poisoning. You've all seen the polling for folks under 40 in particular. It's not a scary word. So I think the fact is that sort of trying to red bait, decades and decades after the fall of the Soviet Union doesn't really work. What people don't care. And by the way, they don't care about broad ideology. They don't care about world history. They don't care about military or foreign policy matters. They care about the kitchen table, because the American people have been through a shock, for literally a decades-long shock to their conception of what it would mean to be an American, to be upwardly mobile, to be middle class. And then COVID disrupted that on steroids. And all people can think about is, how are they going to get by? And the party that speaks to that better wins. Donald Trump actually sounded more pissed off in 2024 about what was happening. And it was totally cynical. And he's done horrible things to make the wealthy richer and to undermine working people in just the last year. But he sounded pissed off. He sounded like an outsider. And this is your parallel is great. Bernie always sounded righteously indignant and was clearly an outsider. Zoran, he's a warmer version of the same concept, but absolutely positively an outsider saying this is broken, we have to do something different. It's not at all impossible for Democrats to get that memo and go boldly onto the playing field next year and win. But if they try and just speak in terms of moderation, or think people want to talk about bigger abstract social issues or foreign policy issues, that's when they lose. Just talk about healthcare, talk about helping people pay the rent, talk about helping people put food on the table, and then you win.
We're talking to former mayor of New York City, Bill de Blasio. Only a couple of minutes left. You know the old line, second hardest job in America, being mayor of New York City. You obviously lived it for a couple of terms. When Cuomo is not doing the Islamophobia thing and all the other low-rent crap that he's done in this campaign, the one argument he makes against Mamdani, which I think has some if I were living in New York City again now, would have some merit with me, does this guy have the experience to run a city that complex with that many workers? You've done it. How do you respond to that, Mayor de Blasio?
None of us had the experience. That's the first thing to understand. None of us had the experience. There's a kind of mythology among the elite of New York City that Michael Bloomberg was this perfect exemplar. He had never served in public service in his life. He did some things very well. He made some massive mistakes. He absolutely exacerbated income inequality and racial division, for example. So, and he was this great billionaire CEO.
From Medford, Massachusetts, by the way, so be careful.
That's right.
Go ahead. I do. No, wait, you said it wrong. It's Medford.
Exactly. Thank you. That's far better.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I must have called into the wrong station. So you go from Medford to Somerville, and then you go to Cambridge. Okay?
That's right.
No, I think the fact is no one is prepared. What Zorhan has that gave me total confidence is extraordinary intelligence, ability to communicate, ability to connect with people, understand their lives, a vision. And I think he's also bluntly very aware of what he doesn't know and has been listening and bringing in people with a lot of skill and experience. That's the way forward. The problem for Cuomo is his experience in it. And I think Zoran said this beautifully in the debate. People have experienced his experience and they don't like it. They don't like the harassment of women. They don't like what happened during COVID. And that's,
Hillary Clinton apparently liked the harassment of women, but go ahead.
I couldn't believe it.
Who endorsed Cuomo for that. Let's not even get into that.
Okay.
Much more importantly, can we end where we began? Where'd you hang out when you were a kid in Cambridge?
Yeah, I am in pain when you ask that question because it's Cafe Algiers in Harvard Square was my place. And, there's that song by Chrissy Hines and the Pretenders. I went back to my city. I went back to Ohio. My city was gone. I went back to Harvard Square, and my hangout spot was gone. Yeah. And I loved that place. And I loved, for those who really go back, Bailey's Ice Cream in Harvard Square.
And
gosh,
we've all been
we
there.
remember that.
Hey, Bill de Blasio, we really like talking to you. I hope you'll join us after the election to continue. We'd love to talk to you again.
My pleasure, guys.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much for joining us. That was the former mayor of the city of New York, Bill de Blasio. We're very grateful for his time. We're going to keep talking about the New York City mayor's race with you guys at 877-301-8970. What do you think? Is Mondami too far left of center for the Democrats? Does it matter? Does it matter if he's right for New York? What does it mean for the Democrats nationally? 877-301-8970. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Coming up on The Culture Show, was it Miss Scarlet in The Study with the Candlestick? Or maybe Colonel Mustard in the Ballroom? Actress Leslie Ann Warren joins us to mark the 40th anniversary of Clue, the board game turned cult classic comedy that made murder funny and turned a mansion full of suspects into pop culture legends. That and more is on The Culture Show today on 89.7 GBH.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you and MIT Sloan Executive Education. You can advance your career with 2 to 3 day courses designed for professionals. Topics include leadership, innovation, and strategic management. Learn more at executive.mit.edu. And Lexus Broadway in Boston, presenting Hamilton. Written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, Hamilton is the story of America then, told by America now. Hamilton is in Boston through November 2nd. More at lexusbroadwayinboston.com.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Jim Browder, Marjorie Egan, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Not at the library today or tomorrow. We'll let you know as soon as we're back. They're doing some work with our studio. We hope it'll be done soon. Until Josh Kraft dropped out of the race for mayor, we thought we'd had at least somewhat of an interesting race for mayor here in Boston. We don't. So instead, we have to look south to some other little town, New York City. We just heard from Zohran Mamdani endorser, former mayor himself, Bill de Blasio, who heralds Mamdani as a fresh face in politics, going about the election with the right approach, focusing on affordability. He thinks it's the exact right message for Democrats nationally. Mamdani has taken heat for a bunch of things, including his pro-Palestinian statements. He's had to woo Jewish voters as he's spoken out about the war in the Middle East while trying to walk the line on being a mayor for all New Yorkers. So with the race getting so many headlines and so much controversy, with people like Chuck Schumer staying away from, who represents New York City, by the way, he lives in New York City, I think for fear that the Mamdani message or brand is going to be a problem for Democrats nationally, exactly the opposite of what de Blasio thinks. We thought we opened the lines for you to get your thoughts. Nationally, conservatives have tried to paint him. Donald Trump calls him a communist. Do you think even Donald Trump has any idea what a communist is, by the way? Well, I'd say no.
He's the biggest socialist in America right now, taking over parts of companies to demanding that they give him a share of their companies.
So in any case, does it matter who New York City elects? All politics is local. I mean, look, for example, in Virginia, the front runner Spanberger is a moderate, center-left kind of candidate. Is Mamdani's message the right one, not just for New York City, but for Democrats nationally, as is being argued by people like Bill de Blasio? Or is he good for New York City, at least according to the voters, but maybe not so good nationally for the Democratic Party? The number is 877-301-8970. I'm going to quote Marjorie Egan, who used to say similar things about Elizabeth Warren, is if you take off the labels, that it's almost what de Blasio just said. This is exactly what America wants, right? Yeah.
Affordability. Yeah, I know. And they'll talk about, he's a big socialist and he's a left of center. Well, he may be left of center, but again, as you say, wouldn't most people like? And by the way,
well, finish the sentence. Affordable
they would
rent,
like affordable rent. They would like child care. Yeah. So what he wants to do is he wants to raise tax revenue by calling for a 2% tax on incomes more than $1 million. What do we just do with the millionaire's tax in Massachusetts, right? That would produce
4% actually here.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not even as much as that.
By the way, he can't do that on his own. Kathy Hochul.
He's got to go.
When the governor, did you see, they were
problem.
chanting "tax the rich" when she was trying to speak at his rally.
Well, there's a lot of rich people in New York City.
There are.
A lot of rich people. Then he wants to increase the state's corporate tax to 11.5%, which matches New Jersey's. Is that? Robert Reich, who wrote a great column about this race in The Guardian, I'm quoting from him now, he says he's right. The wealthy have never been as wealthy as they are right now, while the tax rate they pay hasn't been as low in this country in living memory. So, again, I think sometimes we just get hoodwinked and don't realize he's proposing things that I think, like you said, people want. 877-301-8970. What do you think? What do you think about him? What do you think about... He's got the same problem, though, as Michelle Wu does with having to go through the state legislature to get anything done, which drives, I think, is ridiculous.
Yeah, but that's not today's topic. I knew you were going to get into that. That is really not today's topic.
Well, here's the other topic. What was Hillary Clinton thinking?
Well, by the way, you were wrong, if I may say so.
I was wrong?
No, you're wrong about having to go through the legislature. The rent freeze he can do, I don't know what it's called. I think it's called the Rent Stabilization Board. And ultimately, he will pick a majority of the members should he be elected. He doesn't have to go through the legislature. He'd have a much easier route in New York City.
So just on the taxes?
Than the taxes, yeah.
The taxes.
877-301-8970. But how about Hillary Clinton? I mean, a credibly accused serial sex offender.
Well, of course.
Well, that's a good point.
She takes one to know one, I guess. And she does know one, so maybe that was it. She figured, I've been married to Bill for 45 years.
It's really unbelievable, actually. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Now, Cuomo, he was Secretary of HUD under Clinton, right? So maybe it's, I don't know. David, you're in Hancock, New Hampshire, one of our favorite places. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hey, Jim. Hey, Marjorie.
How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Beautiful fall up here.
I bet.
I don't think our problem as Democrats is our ideas. When you poll people just on the ideas and you don't say where they came from, you only say what they do, those ideas always win. Where we're losing is branding and marketing. For instance, we can't complain that Donald Trump calls us communists and socialists when we have candidates who say they're democratic socialists. Why do you have to say that you're a socialist just because you're supporting programs that, quite frankly, FDR created Lyndon Johnson created, and all under the rubric, under the name of Democrats. We're literally handing them the ammunition and putting the gun to our forehead and then complaining that they pull the trigger. It makes no sense.
Can I tell you that, David? I tend to agree with. I don't understand it either. Why not just you're a Democrat in the case of Mamdani? Just talk about your ideas.
Bernie's a Democratic socialist.
I understand that. He wasn't elected president when he ran for president, was he?
He came very close, didn't he?
Yeah, well, coming close is not quite good enough. That's like saying Hillary Clinton came close too, but Donald Trump was elected, you know?
I don't think it was because he was Democrat's biggest problem is they've been talking about child care for 40 years and haven't produced it. They've been
criticized every day, Schumer and Jeffries.
Well, they're terrible messengers, and I don't think they've done much for the child care problem in the United States of America, even though Schumer's been a very powerful guy in the Senate. But I think it's producing some of these results. You know, the Democrats were very late to get to the affordable housing issue. I mean, really. Yeah. When did we start talking about this?
I think for about 40 years.
40 years?
Decades they've been talking about it.
That's what Kamala Harris was running on? That's what was Biden was running on? I don't think so.
She ran on affordability. Even if you're a big Kamala Harris fan, she's not as effective. Mamdani has it. I mean, it really is.
Well, that's it. If you listen to him in podcasts, get a break.
We'll be right back.
We're going to be right back to talk more about this race in New York City, what it means nationwide. 877-301-8970 is the number. You're listening to BPR and GBH. Any PM.
French scientists have found a species of ant that can do what was previously considered impossible, give birth to a completely different species.
This is one of these really kind of mind-bending examples where one species is kind of exploiting another, but that boundary between exploitation and what the species really is kind of becomes blurred.
That story next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you. And Minute Women Home Care, providing senior home care services to families in the Metro West Boston area for over 55 years. Services include dementia care, fall prevention, live-in, and 24-hour care. MWHomecare.com. And Mass General Brigham Health Plan, providing coverage plans for individuals, families, employers, and retirees with benefits that help you live in your moment. More at massgeneralbrighamhealthplan.org.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marge Regan and Jim Browder is streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Not at the library today or tomorrow. We don't know yet when we'll be back. We'll let you know as soon as we do. In November, the Attorney General joins us on the 4th. The Mayor joins us on the 18th. Yo-Yo Ma joins us on the 19th to talk and play. And by the way, a lot of you have been texting about why the governor was not here in October. I assume, I don't know, her schedule is full. Maybe the first month she's missed. And we're trying to get her in November. Not successfully yet, but we will let you know. We're talking about the New York City's mayor race. We just talked to it with the former mayor of New York City, Bill de Blasio, who went to Cambridge and Latin High School, I should say. And the question for this part of the discussion is not so much whether Mamdani is right for New York City, but is he a problem for Democrats nationally? It's going to be used by Republicans to the detriment of other Democratic candidates, or is he providing exactly the right roadmap for Democrats to win, as de Blasio thinks he is? The number is 877-301-8970 is the number.
Let's go to Pat in Newburyport. Thank you for calling, Pat.
Hello, Pat. Welcome.
Hey, thank you. I love you guys. I've
Thanks.
been a long-time supporter. First time I've called.
We really appreciate that.
I love Mamdani. I think he's right for the nation. And I personally think that we Democrats need to claim who we are. I mean, there were so many of us loved Bernie. We love what he said. He's not afraid of saying that he's a democratic socialist. And we shouldn't be either. And you know what? If you defang the gun before they fire it by saying, this is what we believe, this is what we do, this is how it works, they don't have any ammunition.
Well, Pat, if I may interrupt, Pat, if I may interrupt, that position may have been true when political races were pretty much contested in the world of fact. But in light of the fact that in Trump world, everything is made up, everything is an attack, everything is a vicious attack, I think you have to make yourself as eliminate things that are not necessary.
I don't think you can ever, but Jim, you can't ever eliminate the attack.
Well, I don't agree with that. I think you can narrow. I don't agree with that, Pat. With all due respect, I think you can narrow the things that are attackable. And I agree with that first caller. But continue. A lot of people will agree with you. I know they do. Marjorie agrees with you.
I just think that no matter what we say, they will lie about it.
That is true. That is true.
You know what?
That is
so
true.
Say whatever is true, and then if they want to attack that, we've already said it, and we've already said to them, you know what? This is what we are. Bernie did very well, and I have half my family that went MAGA, but they were all for Bernie.
Yeah, but Pat, let me say that again. I said to Marjorie, coming in close is not good enough anymore if a Trumpster is the winner. So having said that, we love your first call and thank you.
Democrats haven't screwed him because they sort of did.
What's that again?
The Democrats sort of screwed Bernie Sanders.
How'd they screw him?
For Hillary.
Oh.
The long knives were out for Bernie, and the idea was that Hillary was going to win. And I thought it was a brilliant move by the Democrats because there was no one more disliked or unpopular in the whole field except for Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton came in second. People did not like...
Well, Sanders ran the next time, too, and right? I mean, wasn't he running in the Biden race when the Biden got the nomination? Wasn't he leading until South Carolina, or am I remembering it incorrectly?
He was. Well, that was the theory then, but Joe Biden was a much more likable guy. Yeah. At least people thought then. A lot of people did not, fairly or unfairly, did not like Hillary Clinton.
Let's go to Brian in Somerville. You're next. Hi.
Hi, yeah. I have a saying that I may have coined, may not, which is embrace the power of and.
Mm-hmm. Which means?
So, which means that both things can be true.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, I think that Mamdani's ideas are great ideas for everybody. And yes, the Republicans are going to use this as, fresh meat to, and I don't know which side is more important,
mm-hmm.
but they're both, there's no or here. There's no, they're both going to happen.
Mm.
They're both.
Well, that's Pat's position too. I mean, you both may be right, Brian.
But again, and Brian, thank you for the call. You talk to some people under 40, whether it's in New York City. I mean, 2 of my 3 kids were in New York until just a few months ago, and they both had to leave. Actually, it wasn't that much less expensive outside of New York, but anyway, they feel as though they can't afford to live. You can't afford to have a house. You can't afford to have a baby because you can't afford the child care plus the mortgage plus the student loans. Everything is so expensive. I think there's this real sense of despair, which is why when you look at young people's attitudes about capitalism, there's huge numbers of them that say capitalism is not working for them.
I agree
because
with that.
we become unregulated capitalism. And as Robert Reich says in his great piece, the Democrats have basically become Republican light, pushing for globalization, privatization, and deregulation of Wall Street. And I think he's got a point.
Can I defend myself, by the way, because a lot
Certainly.
of people are understandably criticizing me for agreeing with that first caller about, it would have been better if the socialist was not part of attached to the Democrat thing because of the way the Republicans play the game. It's not, obviously it's not because of the policies, because I embrace most of his policies. The average person has no idea what that means. And when Donald Trump has got the biggest megaphone, calls him a communist, then socialism becomes communism. Most people don't know what that means either.
Socialism
but they
is
know
the
it's
government
scary.
owning the means of production.
Well, okay, how many people as you walk down the street have any idea what it means?
We have the government.
It's made scary by Donald Trump.
Well, he's doing it. As I said before, he wants a piece of...
He's doing it. Medicare is the most popular program in America.
But when you talk about the government owning the means of production, he's got a piece of NVIDIA, he's got a piece of Intel. That's what socialism is.
Here's
What?
Woody, the UPS driver. This is quite poetic. If Zoran is wrong for the Dems, then I don't want to be right. The Dems need to stop letting the perfect be the enemy of the
And how about the
good.
text after that? I would rather be called a democratic socialist than a fascist liar.
Well, that's a good point,
So there
too.
you go.
Grayson
There you go.
Ames-
Oh, one
Sorry.
more.
Sorry, one
Here's from
second,
Linda
Grayson.
from Warwick. I grew up in social democratic Denmark. There is a reason we are among the happiest people on earth. Social democracy works. And someone was sitting there thinking, oh, yeah, but they pay huge taxes. Well, they do pay huge taxes, but the difference is in the United States of America, the wealthy get away with murder in terms of taxes, and regular people and middle-class people are paying, a lot of their own income.
Well, also, would you rather pay a little bit more, even if you're middle class, and be as happy as the Danes are, or all the other Nordic countries, or as miserable as we all are?
Well, I guess I would say things are out of control. How many people are billionaires in America? Billionaires. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, right? We could have a trillionaire, and the Oracle guy, or an Elon Musk down the road.
Andrea in
Nobody
New
should
Hampshire
be a
said,
trillionaire.
Jim, and being safe and sticking with the moderate billionaire class approved safe talking points. That, by the way, I'm offended by that, Andrea, but that's fine. Is exactly the reason the Democrats have lost over and over again. I'm not saying you should retreat from anything. I'm just saying that you give as few, stick to the merits of your cause and your issues. I'm not saying that, this moderate billionaire class, please. Grayson in Amesbury, hi.
Hey there. I'm just calling. I'm actually a member of DSA, and I'm in the Maine state legislature, so I'm sort of an interloper here.
That's okay.
And the thing I wanted to say was that, shying away from the label of being a democratic socialist, I think is short-sighted, because they will call us communists and socialists all day long. And secondly, the thing I wanted to point out, I think a lot of young people are attracted to the label of being a DSAer besides just being a Democrat, because for the last 30 years or so, Democrats have been seen as complicit in the distribution of wealth towards the billionaires and offshoring jobs, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there is utility to the label, as much as they'll attack us over it, but I think the attacks ring hollow because they called Obama a socialist all day long.
Well, I'm losing this argument, and maybe I should lose the argument. Hey, don't go away if you're a state rep in Maine there, Grayson. Obviously, one of the two Democrats running for the Senate nomination against Susan Collins is taking a lot of heat. He was exploding in popularity. And with a tattoo and a couple of old texts, he's taken a couple of hits. Where are you on Plattner?
It's really tough for me. I like a lot of what the guy says. He's also just sort of coming out of nowhere. But, I think the tattoo was really problematic. Some of the things he said on Reddit obviously don't reflect well. Mm-hmm. Janet Mills and I have had our share of differences, so it's not easy for me to support her either, but certainly we'll get somebody in there to beat Collins.
Hey, call us again, Grayson. We really appreciate your thoughts. Thanks so much for sharing them. 877-301-8970. By the way, there's not one texter or caller who agrees with me, so we're going to edit the tape before it becomes a podcast, so we can edit that thing out so I don't keep taking heat from the listeners.
One of the texters, maybe our staff can check this. They say Forbes magazine says there are 813 billionaires in the United States of America right now. That makes us the country with the most billionaires by a wide margin, and together they hold a combined wealth of $5.7 trillion. What
was the point of that?
The point is that we have the income inequality in the United States is getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. We're in a gilded age, right? We're in the second gilded age in the United States of America right now. It is incredible when you think about it, that people have so much money they can donate $100 million to a political candidate, $200 million to a political candidate.
Well, there's another thing, by the way. Remember when the voters of Massachusetts chose to embrace the millionaire's tax because the people on Beacon Hill didn't have the courage to raise taxes equitably? Remember how all the wealthy people are going to move out of state?
That's right.
Have they all moved out of state?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
By the way, apparently there were 813 in 2024. Our staff has just double-checked. We're up to 902 billionaires, according to Forbes, March 2025. So we're going to be up to 1,000 pretty soon, Jim.
You glossed over. They haven't moved. I mean, they may not be happy that they're
they haven't moved.
That they're paying more in taxes.
And the radical proposal he's supposedly talking about is a 2% tax on incomes over $1 million,
which is half of the increase that was embraced by the voters here. A 4%
How radical is that? He also wants a $30 minimum wage.
Yeah,
but if you get a $30 minimum wage, that means you could probably afford an apartment in New York City and still buy a peanut butter sandwich.
No, I'd say if you had a $30 minimum wage, you can probably afford an apartment in Ohio is what you could do. I'm not sure you could afford an apartment in New York City.
What's 30 times 40?
$1,200.
$1,200 times 4 is about $4,800 a month.
$5,000 a month. It's only $60,000 a year.
Yeah,
that's not exactly a living wage in New York City.
If you have 4 roommates. You could afford a one-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
I wonder if he is going to move out of his rent-controlled apartment there to the Gracie Mansion.
Well, he's a man of the people kind of guy, so I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to Daniel in Somerville. Hey, Daniel, welcome.
Hey, I think the Democrats, if they want to win again, they need to take the idea of means testing and sort of targeted programs and throw that in the garbage and say, look, we want public benefits for everyone and hammer that home. Medicare for all, free college for all, just those public universal programs, because nobody wants to fill out paperwork to get, denied a claim for some program that's overly means tested.
Yeah, but by the way, I agree with you politically. I don't know if you were listening. When de Blasio was with us, I asked about means testing, rent stability. For those who don't know, there are very few rent-controlled apartments left in New York City. They're mostly like 1 million or something rent stabilized. The problem is without means testing, and you make all the right political points, the more who are eligible, the more it'll get support, I think is your point, with which I agree. The problem is it makes affordable housing less available to people. And I have the lawyer he's a wonderful guy. The lawyer who represented my union when I was union president in New York City lives on the Upper West Side in the biggest apartment I've ever been in New York City. You know how much he paid when I left New York City? $300 a month.
Well, that's the problem,
Daniel, thanks for the call.
Is that people that are opposed to rent control and rent stabilization will find those stories, and that happened in Massachusetts.
Well, that's why it was repealed.
We had a Supreme Court justice that was living in a rent control apartment. We had one of your buddies in the city council.
Excuse me, the president of GBH lived in a rent-controlled apartment.
That's right.
The sign as you entered Cambridge had a city councilor in Cambridge, the president of GBH, SJC justice. And by the way, my position then was too, had there been some modification, including means testing, it wouldn't have disappeared. De Blasio referenced that. When that passed in 1994, I say this every time this comes up, when rent control was repealed, the 3 communities that had it, including Cambridge, voted to keep it. The 348 cities and towns that didn't have it voted narrowly to reject it, and they got to decide for the whole state, which is just insane.
I have to take off my jacket.
Oh, that's
spotted by a texter.
Someone said that on a text. What's on the back of your jacket, Marjorie?
WBUR.
Do you work at BUR?
No, I don't.
You don't? Okay.
Friend of mine I lost my jacket. A friend of mine gave me another jacket.
Did a texter really say something about that?
Right there. Is that a WBUR jacket? Very nice. Okay. I was caught. It's because I lost my jacket. I needed one.
No, and the only jacket available had WBUR on the back. Nothing else available in Marjorie's closet.
That's right.
Dorothy in Exeter, New Hampshire. Welcome to the show. Hi. Thank you.
Hi. Hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. I lived in New York for 21 years of my life before I moved up to the Massachusetts, Boston area.
Yep.
And I really feel, I agree with Jim, that Mondavi, he may have a lot of good ideas, but they're totally impractical.
I didn't say that.
Hold on.
I didn't say that at all.
Okay, Dorothy, what's impractical?
No, but
what's impractical?
What I'm saying,
Go ahead,
give us an example. What's impractical?
Impractical?
Yeah.
That they're going to have free apartments, and you know how many
they're not going to have free apartments.
They're freezing rent. He wants the free.
Listen, my grandparents lived in a rent control apartment in Washington Heights when I was growing up.
Yeah.
It's not impossible, but how many years ago was that?
Well, they still have them now.
Well, let Dorothy. What else is impractical? Go ahead.
Well, the idea of doing these things in one term or 2 terms is all I'm saying. I think Mondavi needs to pick.
Mamdani.
And Mondavi needs to pick an issue.
Yeah.
Mondavi.
Well, I mean, Dorothy, person who runs for office has a list of things that they care about.
Yeah.
And I don't think he can say, I'll do one thing the first term. And I mean, the reality is that's what's going to happen. But if you were listening before, de Blasio was the mayor for 8 years. 3 of the 8 years, there was a rent freeze in New York City.
And he also got pre-K, we don't have that in Boston. So your kid can go to pre-kindergarten for free.
And Dorothy, with all due respect, one of the reasons you think it's, I don't mean you think, one of the reasons some people think it's impractical, you have your own reasons, is because candidates for political office don't, in my opinion, don't think big enough. They think incremental change, and most Americans who find this country, and especially its cities, unaffordable, can't survive incremental change. They need something serious fast. But Dorothy, thank you for your call. We really appreciate it.
But you know, I lived in Brookline when they had the rent control apartments, and it was unbelievable how fast everything turned around. There were all these Beacon Street apartments up sort of Cleveland Circle. They were all rent control. They had a lot of single mothers in there. It made more diversity in the schools, more diversity in the town. And I don't know, within a year, everybody was gone. They went all to condos.
I moved to Cambridge the year before the election.
It was
they voted in
unbelievable.
1994.
And now
Total
you
change.
can't buy a closet for I'm exaggerating a little bit, but a closet in Brookline probably cost you, I don't know, $700,000, $800,000.
I wondered what happened to this guy the other day. John from Gardner, you okay? We missed you.
Well, I seem to have lost my magic touch to get through, Jim. And even when I get through, sometimes you don't take my call. So,
that's right.
Oops. Well, we did today, John. I'm really glad you're well. I was literally thinking about you 2 days ago. How are you?
God bless you. I'm very well. And
Great.
It sounds like you guys are, too.
Good.
Marjorie, the Wall Street Journal estimated in September of 2025 that there are 1,135 U.S. billionaires.
There you go. It's going up and up and up and up and up. That's right. We'll be to 1 million before the New Year's.
Go ahead, John.
As you probably guys, I'm sort of a center-left guy. I try to hew towards the middle. But I question myself now because I've always been one to I'm talking of presidential elections and so forth, to work towards the swing states and so forth. In my opinion, the only one right now looking forward that has the it factor is AOC. I think she's been wise to distance herself a little bit from the rest of the so-called, what do they call them?
The squad.
The squad.
I don't know if she is. Do you think she is?
Yes, I do. I do, definitely.
Okay.
But anyway, could she moderate, express to the across the United States that she's working towards universal health care provided by the government, that she's working towards the massive climate change things that we have to do, but that she's going to be political about it. She wouldn't put it that way, of course, but she's going to be wise about it, listen to a lot of people, and work towards those things and not try to convert it overnight. But at this point in time, and hopefully it'll change in the next 3 years, nobody has the it factor other than the AOC.
Wow. Oh, I disagree with you. I don't know how much you've listened to this guy. I think he's got a great sense of humor. He's extremely talented. He is not, I don't think many people would find him annoying. I hate to say this, but there's a higher quotient of people find women annoying than men annoying. Right. I think she didn't do a very good job on television a couple of weeks ago when she was on.
That was a night.
Right.
She was not fabulous.
I don't know. I don't know, John.
Really
I think this guy, I think he's an extraordinarily talented politician, but we can all, I guess we can disagree.
So, John, before you go, should I tell the call screeners to stop rejecting your calls? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. I'm beginning to, if it wasn't an ego thing, I'd beginning to think somebody had something against me, Jim.
We always love hearing from you.
Well,
Thanks so much for your calls.
I'm surprised. The weather's been so nice. You spend so much time on the golf course. I'm surprised you had time to call.
He's calling from the 17th tee, actually.
Are you in the bunker?
I love you guys.
See you, John. We're pretty fond of you, too.
Okay.
John's a long-time caller. Been with us a long time.
He has.
Back to our commercial radio days. By the way, the excitement, I have to say, if you look at the texts and what the callers intended to say, we're not getting a lot of you. Mamdani is a pretty cherished Democratic candidate, I should say.
Okay, yeah. I think people, as the guy that ran for mayor from New York a few years ago said, the rent is too damn high.
Jimmy, the rent is too damn high. McMillan, was that his last name? I think so.
That's all he said.
We're going to return to this race again in the next few days.
Okay, we're saying goodbye to the people listening in NEPM. Thank you for tuning in to us, you guys up at NEPM. And make sure to turn to the Fabulous 413 at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Up next, Trenni Casey is going to talk about the NBA gambling ring and the 18-inning World Series. That's next.
You're listening to Boston Public Radio with Jim Braude and Marjorie Egan. Just ahead, more smart conversation about what's going on in our community. Stay with us here on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you. And SNH Construction, committed to using craftsmanship and technical expertise to build spaces that work, and professional management to guide you through the process. shconstruction.com. Strategic, manipulative, infamous. The new two-part American Experience series is an incisive portrait of the controversial policy power broker. Kissinger continues tonight at 9 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Braude, head on Hour 2 of BPR. We're not at the library. We'll talk with NBC Sports Boston's Trenni Casey about what's next for the NBA after the FBI's bust of a mafia-led rigged poker and sports betting operation. Plus, we'll check in on that 18-inning World Series game last night where Ohtani played the game of the century again.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then it's Boston Medical Center's Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett. She joins us on the health impacts of domestic violence and how to prevent it. Plus, over a week since the Louvre heist and some suspects are in custody, the crown jewels are still MIA. We'll get a reaction from Anthony Amori, who knows a thing or two about missing masterpieces as the head of security for the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. That's all next on the noon hour of BPR 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. It is now day 28 of the federal government shutdown. There's a federal court hearing today in California where a judge will hear arguments on President Trump's layoffs of some federal workers during the shutdown. NPR's Andrea Hsu says the layoffs have been on hold for the last 2 weeks.
The Trump administration has been pushing back against U.S. District Judge Susan Ilston's decision to temporarily halt layoffs, including at agencies that have yet to announce plans for layoffs. The administration says the court lacks jurisdiction to hear the case and that the unions have failed to show that they are suffering irreparable harm as a result of the administration's act. The federal employee unions that brought the case, meanwhile, argue that federal workers are suffering emotional trauma as a result of the recent layoffs, coming on top of funding and staffing cuts to their agencies earlier this year. Andrea Hsu, NPR News.
Hurricane Melissa is bringing catastrophic wind and flood-generating rain to Jamaica this hour. The island of more than 2.8 million residents, as well as thousands of tourists, were advised to take shelter as a Cat 5 storm closed in with top winds of 185 miles per hour. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth writes on social media the U.S. military destroyed 4 boats in the Eastern Pacific yesterday. Hegseth released grainy videos of the boats exploding and said Mexican emergency crews had rescued 1 survivor. Hegseth said 14 people were killed in the attacks and that U.S. intelligence suggested the boats carried narcotics bound for the United States. 2 previous survivors in U.S. strikes were repatriated to their home countries, where they were set free due to a lack of evidence to charge them with a crime. Some U.S. lawmakers from both parties have called the killings executions without trial and illegal, and that suggests that the military is breaking U.S. and international law when it kills civilians. Investors in the U.S. have been keeping an eye on trade and interest rates this week. NPR's Scott Horsley reports so far they like what they're seeing.
Investors are optimistic that an expected meeting this week between President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping will lead to a ratcheting down of trade tensions between the world's 2 biggest economies. Trump held a friendly meeting today with the new Prime Minister of Japan. Amazon says it's cutting some 14,000 corporate jobs as it leans more heavily on artificial intelligence. Amazon is a financial supporter of NPR. Federal Reserve policymakers are meeting in Washington. When that meeting wraps up tomorrow, the central bank's expected to cut its benchmark interest rate by another 0.25 percentage point. That expectation was reinforced by a report last week showing slightly less inflation in September than forecasters had expected. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
At last check on Wall Street, the Dow is up 155 points. It's NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. As the federal shutdown continues to drag on, Massachusetts Congressman Jim McGovern is calling on Republican lawmakers to compromise. The Worcester Democrat says the refusal to negotiate by congressional Republicans is keeping the government closed. McGovern says his party will continue pushing to have health insurance tax credits included in any new spending bill.
We don't want to promise that there'll be a debate on some of this stuff, weeks later. We want to guarantee that this is going to be fixed.
If the tax credits are not extended by the end of the year, the cost of buying health insurance through the Affordable Care Act is expected to double. Lawmakers in the Massachusetts House vote tomorrow on a literacy reform bill that aims to reverse what some officials call troubling trends in student reading rates. The State House News Service quotes House Speaker Ron Mariano saying that in Massachusetts we have school districts who have yet to fully adopt a proven literacy curriculum, even though such approaches are the most effective ways to improve reading outcomes. In sports, the Bruins host the Islanders at the Garden tonight, and after 6+ hours and 18 innings. What a long game. The Blue Jays and Dodgers are back at it again in Game 4 of the World Series. LA leads 2-1. In the forecast, mostly cloudy, 52 degrees today, cloudy 42 overnight, cloudy and 50 tomorrow, and it looks like rain on Thursday, but clearing up for Halloween on Friday. Near 60 degrees on Friday. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher's dedicated team of specialists provide resources on investing, retirement income, estate planning. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Welcome back. Oh, you're doing this. Sorry.
Yep. Welcome back to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We are not at the library today or tomorrow. We hope to be back there, but soon. We'll keep you posted. The Attorney General is going to be with us November 4th at 11 o'clock. Yo-Yo Ma, the legendary cellist, will be with us November 19th. And the day before that, the Mayor of Boston will be with us, Michelle Wu, for another edition of Ask the Mayor. Hello again, Jim.
Hey, and I should say, if you like hanging out at the library in the Newsfeed Cafe, which I happen to do, we're on the monitors.
We're on the monitors.
From 11 to 2,
right.
So you can hang out and remember the good old days. We're joined now on Zoom by Trenni Casey. She's an anchor and reporter for NBC Sports Boston and a BPR contributor. Hello, Trenni.
Hi, guys. How are you?
We're good.
We are very, very good. So before we get to you, we are going to play you a clip from last night's World Series. Jim claims he stayed awake for all 18 innings.
Of course I did.
No one believes him. But anyway, here is a clip of Freddie Freeman of the Los Angeles Dodgers, hitting a walk-off home run in the 18th inning Monday night.
In Los Angeles. Freeman sends a fly ball to center field. Show's going back before the catch goes back. Freeman is under it. It's a repeat here with the last word on a Game 3 classic.
By the way, you couldn't make that out. When the announcer said repeat hero, he's the only guy I think ever, correct me if I'm wrong, Trenni, who's had 2 walk-off home run wins in the World Series ever. I think that's true. In any case, I think
that is true, yes.
Yeah, that was pretty exciting.
18 innings, though, that's a long time.
So, Marjorie, I don't know if you guys remember this, but there have only been 2 18-inning games in World Series history, and they have both involved the Dodgers.
No.
The last one was 2018 against our Boston Red Sox. I believe it was Game 3 of that series. It was either Game 3 or it might have been Game 4. But I covered it. I was there for it. And I remember we were all so excited because the way that the game time lined up, we're like, sweet, we're all going to get to go out tonight in LA and have like a real dinner and all like the reporters can hang out. Oh, no. They had to reopen the press box for Dodger dogs because we were there for so long and we were all starving.
Dodger dogs.
But the Dodgers won that game as well. That's when Nate Eovaldi pitched an absolute gem. He came in and pitched, I think, 6 or 7 innings of relief for the Red Sox. Now, the Red Sox eventually lost, but they won the World Series that year. So I don't know. It depends if you're rooting for the Dodgers or not. Maybe history will repeat itself, and this will just tap them out. But the real hero, I know Freddie Freeman was the hero of the game because he hit the home run to give the Dodgers a 6-5 win. But once again, Shohei Ohtani, you guys, unbelievable. 4 for 4, 2 home runs. He was on base 9 times. 9, that always makes me think of Ferris Bueller, 9 times. His only mistake was he tried to steal second base, try to get the Dodgers a win much earlier in the night, and his foot slipped off second base and he was tagged out. That was the only mistake he made all night. But I think the wildest thing is he's the Dodgers starting pitcher today.
I know.
So he played all 18 innings of baseball, not just as a designated hitter, but still that takes something mentally and physically out of you. And now he's got to go tonight and try and be the guy that gets the Dodgers another win. He's going to be the starter. The bullpens are trashed. Both teams used every single reliever available, like at some point, like even going back to starters from a couple days ago. So this has just been a really interesting chess match because yesterday was game 3. So you still have to play 2 straight days of games 4 and 5, before you get a rest/travel day to head back to Toronto for the conclusion of this World Series. So absolutely epic. I did not watch it.
I'm so glad you brought up Ohtani. Can I just say, if you think this is deja vu all over again, as Yogi Berra once said, or allegedly said, last week when Trenni was here, I think we agreed with most commentators who said Ohtani just performed in the greatest game ever by a Major League Baseball player. 6 innings of shutout baseball, 10 strikeouts as a pitcher, and 3 home runs in 3 at-bats. And then a week later, he did something that has never been done in the World Series. For those who are not baseball fans, getting on base, let's say 3 times in a game, especially a high-stakes game like that, is huge. 9 out of 9 times, 2 homers, 2 doubles, 5 walks. It's just, when I woke up this morning, it is beyond insane. It's spectacular.
And I feel like I keep needing to remind people, Jim, that up until that game 4, actually I think it was game 3 against the Brewers, he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. He was batting like .08. So he wasn't even, he was batting like way below the Mendoza line. So he has absolutely just found his stride when it matters most for the Dodgers. He is an incredible baseball player, like something we have never, ever seen before.
But it would make me nervous if I were a Dodgers fan that he played all 18 innings as a designated hitter and now tonight he's supposed to pitch. I mean, that's not enough of a rest, is it? How old is he?
I mean, that's, you know what, Marjorie, I'm not.
20s?
I think he's probably late 20s.
Okay, that's still pretty young, but still.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about that, right? Like, again, like I said, sure, you're only hitting in a game, right? But it's not like normally you'd have 4 or 5 at-bats in a game. He had 9 at-bats in a game. Now, some he just sat there with his bat on the shoulder because they intentionally walked him. So there was no real effort exerted, but like there's enough. But he is like a freak of nature.
He's 31, by the way.
31,
He's 31. So I am curious to see how he did say through an interpreter when he was interviewed by Fox last night after the game, he's like, I just really want to get home and sleep, right? I don't know. I kind of feel like you're 31. Like things that I used to do when I was 31 and then go out
let's not.
Like, yeah.
Exactly. Can I just say, Marjorie, in all fairness, I'm a little bit older than 31. I was up late last night, and I thought it was great in the first hour. I mean, did you? I mean, I'm just saying.
You're superb, Jim, as always.
So can we go from great World Series games to sports bras? I mean, that's generally the segue.
That's usually the way, the trajectory.
Why are we talking about sports bras, Trenni?
Because there is a local woman who went to Harvard to get her PhD, who has basically as like sort of her PhD thesis is trying to design a sports bra for every woman. Jim, obviously, this is something that you can't necessarily relate to. Marjorie, I'm sure that you can. Mm-hmm. But if you are a woman, and so I obviously, as you know, I run. I have a lot of friends who run. I have a lot of friends who are weekend warrior athletes. And we're always talking about, does this sports bra work? Do you like this one? Does this one cut into you? Does this one give you enough support? Like they're not one size fits all, because there is extra small, medium, large, extra large, but like they don't really always work for every body type, every cup size, every like level of intensity. So she is trying to, and she feels like she was inspired by the Dove commercials that talk about how many girls drop out of sports because of body image issues, like not being able to feel comfortable, playing sports. And so she's trying to design a sports bra that is made for all different types of women. I hope if she is listening to this right now, whatever you do, you either sew the pads in or you don't put pads at all in your sports bra. Because again, Jim, I know maybe you've heard your wife complain about this, but every time I wash a sports bra, the pad gets like closed up and you're like in there trying to like make it, or you're pulling it out and then you're just kind of, wadding out. Like you need a little bit of padding there. So let's figure that padding out for the ladies.
Okay.
Tell your story.
Well, since I was a runner in the days when you wore cotton shorts and there were no such things as sports bras, the thing she doesn't really talk about is the big thing, I think, for a lot of women. You don't want your breasts to move. You want them to be like not moving. And that's the big thing that I don't think any sports bras do. It was in the olden days, you wear one bra, then you put this spandex thing over the bra, and then you take the straps of the bra and tie them with a shoelace behind your neck, and that would keep breasts from moving. And I don't know, it seems to me that they haven't figured that out.
I do think, Marjorie, I do think that they are, and now it depends what size you are. I'm sort of right in the middle, not super small, not super, super big.
That's where I am. That's where I am, Trenni. Just right.
I'm like the Goldilocks of breasts.
That's right.
So for me, it's okay. But like my sister, who is much chestier than I am, like when she does stuff, she has to wear 2 sports bras.
Yeah.
She has to layer them on top of each other. So I think that's what she's trying to figure out. Like, how do we make women feel comfortable in being athletic, but also, I don't know anything about jock straps, but apparently jock straps come in all different shapes and sizes, because there's like research and money and things put into this. Like it's just another, I think, example of women's issues being seen as not important, as women not being athletes and it not female athletes out there right now. And all I want is to not chafe every time I pull on a pair of shorts or pants. And I don't want my chest to be sore after I work out, because they're flopping up and down. You know how many times I see people running outside and they're flopping up and down?
You know who does a really good job? Lululemon tops for hot yoga. Your breasts are like smashed against their chest.
Don't we have a Lululemon problem? Wasn't there an issue?
There's a Lululemon issue?
Wasn't there a political problem or something?
I don't know. Was there a Lululemon political problem?
I think their owner sometimes makes comments about different body types that aren't always the nicest. And I think there was a long time ago, Jim, people thought you could see through their leggings. But I do think they've come a long way.
Well, they managed to do it with their yoga tops.
Can I say something?
You're not moving
but
anywhere.
In fairness, Marjorie, you're not you're moving in hot yoga, but it's not like running or
it's not.
like doing some sort of high intensity, like a high rocks, which everybody's doing now, or trail running or mountain climbing.
You don't have to want to run holding up your breasts. There's no question about that.
Can I say 2 things here, because I feel left out of this? I have to say, when I was younger and weighed more than I should, my breasts were moving too, by the way, just like you described. So I don't want to feel left out of this.
They get sore, don't they, Jim?
Oh, God. In any case, but I kind of a topic I discuss with Trenni often, I would say not often enough. Let me read you a paragraph from the story in the Globe. Many young athletes don't feel comfortable approaching their coaches with questions about their bodies, particularly given that only 26% of youth sports head coaches in 2022 were women. I mean, once again, the same, and and the article goes on and say, well, even if it's a man, you should, go to, it's tougher. And this gets back to the same thing we talk about. There need to be more women coaches coaching women.
Did you see what the staff said?
No.
Our next pledge gift should be the BPR sports bra.
Yeah. Another one said I should buy the Bro, which is a different Sports bra. Okay, Trenni Casey.
We're wishing her luck, though, on the sports bra endeavor.
Right, she hasn't even. It's not even out yet. She's just developing.
She's developing it and working on it, and these types of things.
Plaster them in. That's what you want to do.
Everybody, hey, Trenni, everybody knows, is least heard about this NBA gambling scandal that captured a current player, used to be with the Celtics.
Terry
a
Rozier.
current coach, used to be with the Celtics. Chauncey Billups. It's just hard for me to believe that this thing, and this was all, it's an FBI thing. Kash Patel was, the face of it, even though it preceded him at the FBI. In your business, do people believe this is going to go deeper and more big names are going to be implicated, or is this the end of the story?
I actually spoke with someone in, not law enforcement, but a lawyer. And I was like, because in the indictment, there are co-conspirators named. Yeah. And this person did tell me.
Co-conspirators unnamed, you mean?
Unnamed, yes, I'm sorry. Co-conspirators unnamed. And this person did tell me that, usually they release the names of the most high profile people. So I'm not sure that all of a sudden we're going to get a deluge of but there is one name on this list who isn't well known to us. He did play in the NBA for a time, a guy by the name of Damon Jones, but he is very, very close with some high profile players, including LeBron James. Think of him, he's like his shooting coach. I guess in a way I sort of, when I read the description of his relationship with LeBron, I thought of him a little bit like an Alex Guerrero to Tom Brady. Like the Lakers hired him, he is part of their team. And so at least at this time, there's been no indication that LeBron James or any of these other high-profile players are involved in this. But it is going to be curious to see what else happens. And so there are it is important too to say there are two sort of separate things going on here. Chauncey Billups was indicted on charges of throwing poker games and being involved with the mafia. So that is different, whereas Terry Rozier is indicted on throwing a game, essentially. There was, and I will say now, Jim, you hate gambling and you hate online gambling, but it is because of the legalization of online gambling that they were able to get the data to go after Terry Rozier, because they saw such an uptick in bets, hundreds of thousands of prop bets being made on Terry Rozier's minutes played, points scored, etc. That tipped off, and people called it in. Casinos called it in. Things like DraftKings, FanDuel, and said this is unusual activity, and then they started to investigate it. But I am curious, guys. There has been some pushback from the leagues. While they're all in on gambling, right? The leagues make a ton of money from advertising and partnerships with DraftKings, FanDuel's, MGM, etc. But there has been some pushback recently on the number of prop bets, and this is where I think things get a little dicier, and you can entice a player with some financial incentives to do things that they shouldn't do, similar to what Terry Rozier did. Although it really shocks me. We had Chris Mannix, who is a longtime NBA writer for Sports Illustrated. We had him on my show last week when the story broke. And I was like, why would Terry Rozier, for a couple $100,000, the guy makes tens of millions of dollars a year, but you just kind of don't know the circumstances behind everything. Did he have gambling debt of his own? We know that was a problem for a guy like Charles Barkley, who's been very open about his gambling addiction. For a Chauncey Billups, was there something else where the mafia was threatening his family? There's all these different ways someone would get messed up and wrapped up in this. It's just kind of a sad story that this has happened. But it has, I think, sparked a larger, more necessary conversation about what you can place bets on and how that's affecting the integrity of sports.
Well, and the message to me is, instead of gambling, go to a restaurant. That's where you should spend your money.
Yes,
Trenni,
absolutely.
It's great to see you as always.
Thank
Be well.
you, Trenni.
Talk to you soon. Trenni Casey.
Bye, guys. See you next
Bye-bye.
week.
Okay, we've been speaking with Trenni Casey, anchor reporter for NBC Sports Boston and a Boston Public Radio contributor. After this quick break, we're going to speak with Dr. Katherine Barnett and Dr. Lisa Fontes, a leading expert in coercive control and relationship abuse, on how to prevent domestic violence. This is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and before it's over, we want to talk about this. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Coming up on The Culture Show, was it Miss Scarlet in the study with the candlestick? Or maybe Colonel Mustard in the ballroom? Actress Leslie Ann Warren joins us to mark the 40th anniversary of Clue, the board game turned cult classic comedy that made murder funny and turned a mansion full of suspects into pop culture legends. That and more is on The Culture Show today on 89.7 GBH.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you and Global View Communications, providing customized inclusion strategy recommendations to organizations that align with their culture and business priorities. Learn more at inclusionitsworthit.com. Global View Communications. Inclusion, it's worth it. And Mass General Brigham Health Plan, providing helpful digital tools, world-class providers, and coverage that help you live in the moment. More at massgeneralbrighamhealthplan.org.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan and Jim Braude, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. I assume you've learned by now. We're not at the library today, nor will we be there tomorrow. We're hoping to be back soon. You can watch on the monitors if you're enamored of the Newsfeed Cafe and the library, as you should be. We'll let you know as soon as we know. Just some November dates you should put down. The Attorney General joins us for an hour for Ask the AG, Andrea Campbell, November 4th, November 18th. The Mayor joins us, and after I told you at the top of the show we hadn't heard back from the governor, we did hear back from the governor in the last hour, so we'll have a date for her in November soon. And Yo-Yo Ma on November 19th is going to join us, we hope, at the library to talk and to perform. And I'll tell you, if you've never heard him in person, he is just, to use a word I overuse, otherworldly. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and according to the National Center for Injury Prevention and Control, more than a third of women and almost a third of men in Massachusetts have experienced some form of domestic violence. Joining us now to talk about why it's both a safety and a public health threat is psychologist Dr. Lisa Fontes, a coercive control and domestic violence expert and part-time instructor at UMass Amherst and Smith College. Smith College, Marjorie, we all have a connection. And Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett, Vice Chair of Primary Care Innovation and Transformation at Boston Medical Center, Associate Professor at BU Medical School, and an Aspen Institute Health Innovators Fellow. Welcome, Doctor and Doctor. Good to see you both. Thanks for being here.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, very, very great to talk to you both. So let's start with you, Lisa Fontes. I hadn't heard this term before, coercive control. So a lot of us have heard about domestic violence, so not coercive control. So what is it?
Coercive control is the underlying dynamic of domestic violence. Sometimes physical abuse is present, and sometimes it's not present. So it's a strategy that one person uses to dominate their intimate partner. The tactics can include isolation, intimidation, monitoring, verbal, physical, sexual, and financial abuse. And then there's a whole slew of post-separation abuse tactics as well. Not all of them are present in every case, but there's more than one. And it makes a victim survivor trapped. They feel they have less access to their own resources, such as money, peace of mind, friends, and they are less free because of the coercive control.
You know, I'm sorry, you go ahead. No, my apologies. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say in Massachusetts, we're among a very small number of states that have a law against coercive control. It's in family code, and it mostly affects protective orders. You can get a protective order for coercive control, even if there is no physical violence, and it also affects custody issues. So this is just in the past year, and it's a vitally important way to protect Massachusetts residents from their abusive partners.
So are you saying that that in, I'm guessing, the majority of states, if we're a standout, that if physical violence is not proven in a proceeding, that I assume mostly a woman, but I assume in some cases a man, may have no legal recourse? Is that what the state of the law is throughout much of the country?
Well, they may have legal recourse in terms of each method of abuse separately. So the financial abuse may show up as stealing, or there may be harassment charges. There may be separate charges. Also, if they can get an expert in, it's something I do across the country, then they may be able to talk to the judge about how it is domestic violence. But because we have this law in Massachusetts, we're one step ahead of the game. It doesn't need to be explained from scratch every single time. Judges are increasingly being trained in this. The general public is, like today. And also, we hope to keep training attorneys and physicians, psychologists, therapists, social workers, so everybody can become more aware of this dynamic, which is really so damaging.
Before we get Dr. Gergen Barnett into this conversation, one more thing with you. I think I read a piece, correct me if I'm wrong, in which you're quoted, in which someone was doing an analysis of the Beatty trial and the conviction there. And I believe, again, correct me if I'm wrong, talked about the absence of this coercive control issue being before a jury. Is that right? And was that poor prosecutorial behavior, or is that a function of the law that applied to the case?
Well, it's interesting what happened in the Beatty case, and I think it really was decisive. And I was called on a lot by the media during that case. The judge ruled that they could not use the term coercive control because there were no charges of coercive control, and it is not a term that is in the law in New York State. So I think it's really too bad, because if the jury had been helped to understand coercive control, it would have connected a lot of the dots between the sexual abuse, the drugging, the verbal abuse, the financial abuse, and so on that these people were undergoing. So I think it was a real loss for justice in that trial.
Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett, one of the things you always hear, it was kind of the line on domestic violence, it's always most dangerous when the person is trying to leave. But reading this long story that Dr. Fontes wrote about coercive control and domestic violence, it almost sounds like there's, that this person is coming into the relationship with a plot. And it's going to get more. The rope is going to get tighter and tighter and tighter as things go along. It's like there's a game plan for becoming a coercive abuser, where I just thought it was some guy that lost his temper, or a woman, I guess could be a woman too, that loses their temper when somebody's trying to leave. So, do they study this? I mean, how do they come up with this? It's almost like I said, a game plan.
Well, I'm actually going to turn that, I think this is a really deep, and very critical question that I would love for Dr. Fontes to address in terms of the psychology of it. But I will say, as a physician and as a public health expert, I really wanted to have this segment today because I actually think that your listeners need to understand that coercive control is in and of itself something. It's an umbrella of practices which can make somebody feel unsafe, but they may not be able to name it. So if somebody feels isolated, they don't feel like they have control over their money, they feel like their social plans are being monitored, there are all of these patterns that happen in coercive control that I frankly don't think we're talking enough about. I'm incredibly grateful for the work of Fontes and her colleagues. But, very few women, and mostly the victims are women, are reporting this. And it's about asking better questions. So clinicians asking better questions is, do you feel free to make decisions in your life? Do you have access to your money? Do you feel like you have, the ability to make social plans? All of those kinds of things. So better screening, but also understanding that the victims of coercive control, like Dr. Fontes says, have an option in Massachusetts to work with courts and to ensure that they have in this case, restraining order and other kinds of things that can come into play in order to protect the victim. So it is a whole nother, very important kind of piece of domestic violence awareness.
I'd like you both to address something that Katherine Barnett just touched upon, is I think we've all learned that in doctors' visits, primary care physician visits, I hope most doctors are doing exactly what you said, having an opportunity to be alone with the patient, asking them questions if they feel safe at home, etc. But Dr. Fontes, starting with you first and then Dr. Gergen Barnett, it seems to me if the terrorist in the relationship, if the abuser in the relationship, I was going to use the expression, is doing a really good job at terrorizing his or her partner, the ability to answer that question is pretty limited, even if you trust your physician, isn't it? Or am I wrong?
Well, there's so much to say about that. I mean, sometimes providers are excellent in really asking, are you safe at home? And other times they toss off that question like, safe at home?
Yeah.
Almost like, I don't want to tell you to tell me anything. I really don't want to know because I wouldn't know what to do if you said that I'm not safe at home. And then another part of that is some people think that they have to answer that they are safe at home because the harms to them don't fall into the categories of domestic violence that they know about. So maybe they're not getting punched in the face. They may not be allowed to get enough sleep. They may not be allowed to see their friends. They may not have access to their money. They may shaken, or they may have to submit to like grueling sessions of being yelled at or cursed at and so on. So they don't feel good at home, but they might not think that they belong to that category of somebody who's a victim of domestic violence. And so this concept of coercive control is just so helpful in helping people understand all the range of behaviors that take away their freedom.
What's your big, I'm sorry, I want to ask Dr.
Go ahead.
What's your experience in asking those questions? And I know you well enough to know you're not one of the people who would rush through it. But how successful have you been in your estimation in ferreting out what's real and what the truth is?
I think that, again, there are obvious cases, right? When somebody has a bruise or, you recognize patterns of domestic violence, which are, physical. I think the psychological pieces are harder to do. I think no matter what, even if I totally trust a partner to be in the room, I want to have a visit just alone with my patient. So that's the key, one of the first key pieces. And I think to Dr. Fontes's point, it's, asking the right questions. I think, are you safe at home is a good first question, but I think really being specific with people around what their rights are. Like, you should be able to go and see your friends when you want to see your friends. You should have access to your money. You should be able to have, make sure that you're making plans, and you're not being stopped from leaving the house. And then on top of that, as a physician, looking for signs of chronic stress. So you have patients who, you could have anxiety, depression, et cetera, that really is a good pointer for a lot of things, but you have to consider that as a clinician. Weight fluctuation, somebody, having, belly pain with no kind of etiology that we can find. So there's a lot of kind of pattern structure, but you need to take your time and you need to know a patient. I think it's hard to ferret these things out in the emergency room. It really takes, a trusting relationship with a provider.
We're talking to Dr. Lisa Fontes and Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett in Domestic Violence Month, and we're talking about coercive control.
So I don't mean to focus too much on the perpetrators here, but as I said before, the thing Dr. You wrote about how these relationships could start out with these love bombs, chocolates and roses and intense love, and then it goes on, and then you're getting to dreading the person that the alleged abuser is, and isolation and yelling and screaming and all that. And I'm just wondering, what do we know about these abusers? Is this something that they that they learn, or how do they? Because it seems like there's a real pattern that you talk about. So, how do they learn that pattern, or know that pattern?
Abusers are not all the same. Some are rich, some are poor. They come from every ethnic group, every age. Some have experienced domestic violence in their homes growing up, and they followed and learned those patterns. But I should say that a lot of people who grow up with those patterns grow up to defend people and to fight victimization. So some domestic abusers go in with full consciousness. One of the things I talk about and I encourage people to look up is romance fraud. And that is where an abuser will be looking for someone who has something they want, a home, a well-paying job, and will get involved in that relationship with the goal of taking away their resources. And it's a very painful con. Others really just feel entitled to dominate their partner. And it may not show up as physical violence until that partner says enough and I'm ready to go. And that could be after 6 months, it could be after 6 years or 60 years. And it's upon the leaving, as you mentioned earlier, Marjorie, then that victimized person is at greater risk. So if people are thinking of leaving, or even if they're not thinking of leaving, if they're just questioning, hey, is this a coercive control relationship? I don't feel right here. I encourage them to contact their local domestic violence agency and talk about developing a safety plan. And that safety plan doesn't necessarily mean leaving, but it means how you can keep yourself, and if there are any children involved, safe. We haven't talked about children yet, but really children are considered co-victims and co-survivors of coercive control.
And often police departments have domestic violence units, do they not?
They do, but I recommend first going or contacting the local domestic violence agency. If you get an advocate from your agency, they can go with you to the police, and you're more apt to get a better response.
Okay.
The police are looking at crimes, and what you're dealing with may not rise to the level of a crime, even if it's making you unsafe.
Can we spend a minute on crimes, though, Dr. Fontes? As I'm sure you know, probably as well as anybody, reports are that Trump, who has some experience with sexual offenses, is contemplating pardoning or giving clemency to both Diddy and, even more incredibly, to Ghislaine Maxwell. What's the trickle-down impact on people acting when they're survivors of this kind of abuse if they see high-profile people getting away with it?
I don't know what the trickle-down impact is. I can tell you that I was working with survivors during the Sean Combs trial as an expert witness. But I was in contact with quite a few who had also been victim of sexual crimes in their home, of sexual abuse in their home. Some in some ways like the Combs trial, and others in different ways. And they felt that the people abusing them would be empowered to know that they could go free and there was no accountability or insufficient accountability. I feel like the Combs trial wasn't a sign of no accountability. I mean, he was convicted, he's going to serve time. He gave, I think, $40 million to Cassie, and people believed the victims in his case. I do find it alarming, though, how cavalier the Trump administration is about allegations and convictions of sexual assault and domestic violence.
Before you go, Dr. Fontes, we're out of time. Are there resources that you could quickly mention to people that if they want to get more information?
The domestic violence agency thing.
In Massachusetts, we've got the wonderful Jane Doe Inc., which is the state domestic violence agency, and that could be the first place you look. DomesticShelters.org is a wonderful website, which can also point you to domestic violence agencies and has a big library of articles, including quite a few that I've written on domestic abuse and coercive control.
Great. And your last name is Fontes, if people want to look those up. It's great to meet you, and Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett, as always, great to see you, and I'm glad you broached this topic with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have been speaking with coercive control and relationship abuse expert and senior lecturer at UMass Amherst, Dr. Lisa Fontes, and Dr. Katherine Barnett, Vice Chair of Primary Care Innovation and Transformation at Boston Medical Center, Associate Professor at Boston University Medical School, and an Aspen Institute Health Innovators Fellow. And thank you very much both for being with us. Coming up after this quick break, a brazen jewel heist in broad daylight at the Louvre has all the makings of the Gardner heist right here in Boston. We'll speak with someone who knows a thing or two exactly about that. Anthony Amori, who's Director of Security at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. He's next. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy, listening to BPR 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
It is spider season in Los Angeles, not just because of Halloween, but because this time of year, certain spiders are mature and ready to mate.
Look at this spooky tree, see? Yeah. If I was a spider, I would live here.
I'm Elsa Chang. Join me on a late-night hunt for spiders as I attempt to overcome my aversion to them on the next All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Paquin Entertainment Group, presenting Moonwalkers, a 360-degree immersive experience narrated by Tom Hanks, featuring NASA footage, astronaut interviews, and more. Now open. Tickets at moonwalkersboston.com.
And Pro Arte Chamber Orchestra, presenting Uncommon Gems with works by Bartok, Andrei Pulnek, and Copeland, conducted by BU's Sarah Ioannidis, November 2nd at 3 in Newton. Tickets at proarte.org.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. As we said, no library today or tomorrow. We're not sure when we'll be back. We hopefully be quite soon. We'll let you know they're doing some remodeling, for lack of a better expression, to the studio there. So police have arrested two of the suspects allegedly involved in that broad daylight jewel heist at the Louvre in Paris. Joined now on Zoom by Anthony Amori. Anthony is the Director of Security and Chief Investigator at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. He's the author of the upcoming book, The Rembrandt Heist, the story of a criminal genius, a stolen masterpiece, and an enigmatic friendship. It's out next week. Anthony, it's good to see you. It's been a while. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well,
nice to see you too.
Thank you for very much for joining us. So as Jim just said, they've arrested a couple of these guys. I don't know, your book is about the Rembrandt heist, the story of a criminal genius. It doesn't look like a genius situation so far, what we know about the Louvre, but correct me if I'm wrong. What do you think?
Well, it's very rare for these people that steal art and antiques to be geniuses, frankly. I mean, Miles Connor, the subject of my book, is a member of Mensa, but outside of him, it's difficult to think of anybody who's done this sort of thing that's known for their high intellect. That being said, they did get into the museum and get their hands on this stuff and get away with it, and it hasn't been recovered yet. So it's difficult to be too critical of them in terms of their evil doings.
Yeah, but at the same
got caught
time,
fast.
Well, not only did they get caught, well, two of them got caught fast, but the conventional wisdom, I'm not sure from you, we'll obviously hear your viewpoint in the next few minutes, was that these were, to use Marjorie's word, geniuses, real pros, the fact they did it in broad daylight at 9:30 after the museum was open. But when you learned yesterday that they left 150 DNA samples, and I have to say, if it wasn't such a serious thing, one of the funniest videos I've ever seen is them coming down the, whatever it is, the lift outside the library, which we saw last night, looking around because they dropped the crown on the ground and they're both leaning over the side of the cage. Where is it? Where did it go? It does sort of undercut the notion that these were incredible professionals, even though, as you say, they got away with it, and at least the material has not been recovered. So do you think there was an inside component to this, Anthony Amori?
Yes, since the news broke, as you two can understand, I've been doing a lot of media, and I've been saying all along there had to be an inside component. I know that the Israeli firm that the Louvre hired to investigate this confirmed that a couple of days ago. The fact that they went in at 9:30, you have to step back and think, okay, they broke into a museum that was open, right? So that right there is something strange, and there's a particular reason why they would do that, right? How often do you see a heist where the thieves are wearing high visibility vests, to blend in? So they knew for some reason that going into the museum after it had opened would be advantageous to them. And that tells me somebody gave them some inside information about the way the security systems work and visitor flow travels throughout the Louvre.
Well, I was thinking if I was at the Gardner Museum and I saw somebody in one of those big yellow vests looking like he was some kind of security person or repair person, what did they use to open the glass? What did they use to open it? Would they have crowbars or did they just smash it?
Some sort of saw, a cutter, right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
saw.
I could be oblivious enough where I'd think, well, they're over there doing something. Maybe they're cleaning the jewelry or something like that. I don't know if I'd immediately assume because it was so brazen. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, it's a clever ruse to get in, and like you said, they left a lot of stuff behind, a lot of good evidence. I mean, that's fantastic, and they caught these first two guys, and I guarantee you, at this very moment, that their digital footprints are being scrubbed to death, and they're probably even being followed, the other two. But all that matters, as I can sadly attest, as someone who's been looking for the Gardner stuff for 20 years, is recovering the items. The arrests are nice, but unless you get the items, they're a far second to recovering these irreplaceable gems.
Let's talk about the recovery in a couple of seconds. The one thing that really shocked me, which is right up your area of expertise, Anthony Amori, who's, I assume most people know, you're the director of security at the Isabel Stewart Gardner Museum, and the robbery happened 35 years ago this year, for those who are not.
God, 35 years.
Incredible.
Wow.
Is when I read right after I love the word heist, which you never use in a sentence until something like this happens. When you read that I think it was only a third of the rooms had an active camera. I may be off a little bit, but there are a lot of the rooms in the Louvre, of all places, that don't have security cameras. The security guards had been their union had been complaining about inadequate number of people and all this sort of stuff. From what you know from afar and based upon your job skills, this was like almost a heist waiting to happen. Don't you think?
Well, I get worried anytime, in the past, this past summer, I watched very closely when employees were on strike at the Louvre and they had cut people, and disgruntled employees are high risk for internal theft. 80% of museum thefts involve an insider.
Oh,
so
really?
I was worried about so I was at least 80%. So I was worried about the Louvre to begin with. The cameras are a problem, especially when you consider that, right now museums need to be moving to AI cameras, right? Because one or two people in a control room trying to look at every camera, say in every room at the Louvre, that's just untenable. You can't watch that much. But with AI, you'll have cameras that tell you what you need to look at and bring them up. So hopefully the Louvre will follow through on its promises that were already in place to improve security there. But no place is impenetrable too. So you really have to be smart about how you do it.
I wondered, is there any countries, how does our security here at museums in general compare to other countries? Are we looser, tighter?
Marjorie, that's such a great question because museums in the United States are not regulated, right? And unlike Europe, our museums are private. For the most part, almost all of them. In Europe, a lot of them are state-run. So when, you can have a museum and say, we're going to have no security, or you can have the tightest. It's completely up to the institution. So it's hard to compare U.S. versus Europe. It's institution by institution.
So I believe, Anthony Amora, you're among those who were suggesting, correct me if I'm wrong, that the likelihood of these incredible creations being split up so that the thousands of diamonds on one piece or whatever it is are going to be trafficked individually. Is that where you are on this? That is where you are, right?
Well, it's one of two things. It's either that was the aim or steal these things and hope some sort of reward was offered and monetize them that way. I think that the thieves probably stole them and didn't separate them immediately. We're probably waiting to see what the response from the museum would be. From the very beginning, I was urging a reward. I still think it's a smart thing to do, to give these thieves an option, because again, the goal here is to recover these items.
Right.
Prosecution secondary. So it's hard to say exactly what they're doing, but I doubt that they split them up immediately.
Is there I don't even know that. Is there a reward yet on the part of the Louvre?
As far as I can tell, it has not been offered, no.
And what's the reward amount at the Gardner?
$10 million, biggest ever.
You know, the thing that surprised me about your comment, I wanted to make sure I got it right, is, you know, you said they're either likely waiting for a reward or splitting this stuff up. You can't split up a Rembrandt. And I know that was 35 years ago, but whatever the motivation was, they knew that they couldn't just sell the thing. They knew that. And so why isn't it possible the exact same sort of thinking exists here, and somebody just wants to have Napoleon's wife's crown sitting in their cellar?
Well, I think, respectfully, it's a mistake to think that when the thieves stole the Gardner art or any other paintings that they didn't think they could sell them. They always think they can sell them. They don't do research into this. It's more of a crime of opportunity. They steal them thinking they can monetize them. In this instance, the Gardner paintings, for instance, when they were stolen in the first couple of days, it was reported that they weren't insured. Mm-hmm. But you make a good point about how you can't cut up these paintings. So it's, you know, when you're looking for gems like this, everybody wants to get their stuff back immediately, right? One day is too long, but the pressure is especially on a quick recovery when you're talking about gems because of that very prospect, right? You can't cut a Rembrandt into 1,000 pieces and monetize it.
You know, speaking of cutting it, the one thing I learned that was the most interesting thing has nothing to do with the Louvre.
What?
I was unaware that the Mona Lisa had been, when someone just shoved it under their arm in the early 1900s, and when I was also, and it was gone for 2 years, and what I was also not aware of is the Mona Lisa was not this huge attraction until it was recovered. And one would argue let's hopefully when the paintings are recovered at the Gardner and when these bejeweled things are recovered at the Louvre, the interest will be even more spectacular than it was before, you know?
Without a doubt. I mean, it adds to the provenance. You know, the backstory to any painting has a big impact on its value. You know, Marjorie, you were surprised when I mentioned insider theft. The theft of the Mona Lisa at the Louvre was an inside job as well.
Yeah.
It was a painter working as a contractor. So it's pretty common. And Jim, you're exactly right that what happened with the Mona Lisa is one of the reasons it's the most famous painting in the world today.
Incredible.
We're talking with Anthony Mori, who runs security and chief investigator of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. So what do we know 35 years later? What's the latest on your situation? We're never going to get these paintings back, et cetera. Et cetera, I should say.
Well, you know, I do wholeheartedly believe we're going to get them back, but I've been saying that on your show for almost 20 years.
You're an honest man, Anthony.
So you're not breaking any news today, Anthony.
No, I know. Listen, it weighs on nobody as much as me, guys. Yeah. So I'm honest about that. But I still do believe there's lots of promise. People talk about low recovery rates for stolen art, but that doesn't apply as much to masterpieces, right? Because the visibility and the awareness of the public is so huge, just like in this case at the Louvre. So I do believe that we will get them back. I can promise you we're working every single day, meaning me and the FBI together. Everything's in place, and you know, we believe, I've said on your show before, we believe we know who the thieves were, but that doesn't matter. What matters is where are they right now today?
Who are the thieves?
2 guys.
Who are they?
2 guys named Joe and Harry.
Spell it backwards. No one will understand, Anthony. How about that?
Yeah. But, you know, we're almost out of time here. But knowing that it would be difficult to sell a Rembrandt or a painting that was so widely publicized having been stolen, the Vermeer, et cetera, what were they thinking, or were they just not thinking?
30 seconds, Anthony.
When the thieves stole the Gardner paintings, I'm certain that they thought they stole probably 5 to $10 million worth of art. That's what all the previous art thefts in the area were.
Okay.
And when they woke up the next morning and saw $200 million back then, I promise you they were shocked and instantly hid them.
Anthony, it's good to see you. Be well.
Likewise.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and congratulations on the new book, which is called The Rembrandt Heist, The Story of a Criminal Genius, a Stolen Masterpiece, and an Enigmatic Relationship. And the author is our guest, Anthony Amori, who is kind enough to join us today. He's Director of Security and Chief Investigator at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. Thank you so much for being with us, Anthony. After the 1 o'clock news, we're going to hear from the Street Theory Art Collective and the Wagner Foundation about a new exhibit in Central Square, Cambridge. You're going to hear a lot about public art. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
If you're a GBH sustainer and your credit or debit card has expired, it's time to update your information. Take just a few minutes to make sure your information is current. Go to gbh.org/update, and thank you for your support.
Support for GBH comes from you. And Boston Ballet, presenting George Balanchine's Jewels, showcasing 3 distinct styles of neoclassical ballet in one brilliant program. Opening November 6th at Citizens Opera House. Tickets at bostonballet.org. And Silligrams, a Boston area manufacturer working with businesses to create custom silicone products for corporate gifts and branded merchandise. Learn about their monogrammed ice trays and more online at silligrams.com.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browder, head on hour 3 of BPR Not at the Library. We're talking with the team behind the Wagner, built around creating a platform for Black arts in Boston. They have a new exhibit on view through early December in collaboration with Street Theory Collective. We'll talk with artists and organizers involved in both, including legendary visual artist Rob ProBlak Gibbs.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then we'll end the day with you and food delivery. Is America becoming a nation of eater-inners? Defaulting to food delivery apps like Uber Eats and DoorDash instead of cooking, or actually going out to eat? Call or text. What do we miss out on when we stay in? A night in the town, a sense of community, or is the convenience of getting every meal of the day brought directly to your front door too much to pass up? DoorDash and you next on the third hour of BPR 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Millions of people in Jamaica are bracing for Hurricane Melissa to make landfall. The National Hurricane Center said in its noon alert that the eye of the Cat 5 storm was approaching the island's southwestern coast. Covering the storm's impact from Mexico City, NPR's Ada Peralta reports on the life-threatening destructive magnitude of this 185-mile-per-hour hurricane.
I think the headline here is that this is a monster storm. It's not an overstatement. Hurricane Hunter plane just measured its central pressure at 892 millibars. And the lower the pressure, the stronger the storm. And just 6 other Atlantic storms have had a pressure under 900 millibars. So what's clear is that Hurricane Melissa will go down in history.
NPR's Ada Peralta reporting. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered the military to carry out immediate, powerful strikes on Gaza, a move that threatens to undermine the 2-week-old ceasefire that President Trump brokered between Israel and the Palestinian militant group Hamas. The announcement came after Netanyahu met with senior security ministers to discuss a response to what Israel called an attempt by Hamas to stage the return of the partial remains of a hostage whose body the militants were supposed to return under the terms of the ceasefire. Israel had already located most of the remains earlier in the war. Israel released drone footage that it said showed Hamas operatives burying a bag with remains in the ground so that the International Committee of the Red Cross could, quote, fine them. Netanyahu called the move a clear violation of the U.S. negotiated ceasefire. Amazon says it's laying off 14,000 corporate workers in a big wave of cost-cutting. NPR's Alina Selyukh reports the company is trying to slim down while it spends big on the AI race.
Amazon says it's cutting about 4% of its corporate workforce. A note to employees cites a goal of, quote, reducing bureaucracy, removing layers, and shifting resources to ensure we're investing in our biggest bets. The company has faced intense pressure from investors to tighten its finances. In part, that's because it overhired during the coronavirus pandemic, and in part because it's so far delivered disappointing growth of its AI business in the race against Microsoft and other rivals. A note that Amazon is among NPR's recent financial supporters. CEO Andy Jassy in June wrote to employees that generative AI would mean fewer corporate workers in the next few years. The company will deliver its latest financial report on Thursday. Alina Selyukh, NPR News.
U.S. stocks are trading higher this hour, with the Dow up 373 points, or roughly 0.75%. This is NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. The host committee for the 2026 World Cup Games in Boston says its ability to run the tournament is in jeopardy without more state funding. Lawmakers in the Massachusetts House have allocated $10 million so far for the event in the state supplemental spending bill. The committee says it needs an additional $10 million for things like transportation backups for the commuter rail, fan events, and operational costs. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey and Boston officials are backing the committee's funding requests. And as the federal shutdown drags on, Massachusetts Congressman Jim McGovern calling on Republicans to get back to negotiating. The Worcester Democrat says the refusal of GOP congressional leaders to budge on a new spending bill is keeping the government closed. He points to the Trump administration's recent bailout package to shore up Argentina's economy as a reflection of the Republican priorities.
These guys would rather send $40 billion to Argentina, to some cuckoo clock right-wing dictator in Argentina, than actually invest in making sure people can afford their health care.
Democrats say any new spending bill must extend ACA tax credits that are set to expire at the end of the year. If not, the cost of buying health insurance on the exchange is expected to double. In the forecast, mostly cloudy, 52 degrees for a high today, cloudy and 42 overnight, cloudy and 50 tomorrow. Then it looks like rain on Thursday, but clearing up for Halloween on Friday. Trick or tariff? Trick or tariff. 60 degrees on Friday they're expecting. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive, with small business insurance for protecting a variety of business types with multiple coverage options, designed to fit business owners' needs. More about small business insurance is at progressivecommercial.com.
Welcome to hour number 3 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Braude and Marjorie Egan. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're not at the Boston Public Library today. We're not going to be back there tomorrow either. We hope we are back there. But we are going to be joined by the Attorney General, Andrea Campbell, on the 4th of November at 11 o'clock in the morning. The legendary cellist, November 19th, Yo-Yo Ma.
Who's going to play, by the way?
He's going to play for us. And the day before that, November 18th, the Mayor of Boston, Michelle, will be back with us again. And we certainly hope we're back at the library by then.
We do.
Yes, we do.
You're supposed to say hello, Jim.
Hello again,
Marjorie.
Jim.
How are you? Congratulations. You've made it to the 1 o'clock hour where the doom and gloom politics stuff is mostly behind us. We're going to spend the next 20 minutes or so immersed in local art and culture. From the page of the stage is an exhibit I saw yesterday. It's fabulous. Now in Central Square, Cambridge. I think through December 5th. Am I right about that? I am.
Yes.
A partnership between the Wagner Foundation and the Street Theory Collective. We're joined in studio by Street Theory Collective Director of Programs and Partnerships. Can I call you legendary? Is that okay?
Legendary.
You are legendary.
Legendary.
You think so?
You are. No, you really are.
That's major.
Is he legendary? He's legendary.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. The legendary legendary Boston visual artist and activist and everything else, Rob ProBlak Gibbs. Great to see you, Rob. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Plus, Street Theory collective artist Ayana Mack, who was part of that beautiful work I saw yesterday. Ayana, good to have you. And Abigail Satinsky. Abby is the Arts and Culture Program Officer at the Wagner Foundation. Welcome to all three of you. Great to have you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So, Abby, let's just start with you to explain the Wagner Foundation and the Street Theory Collective.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
Yeah, so Wagner Foundation, our main mission is that we're dedicated to building healthy communities around the world. And we do that supporting the fields of health equity, economic well-being, and the transformative power of art and culture. And so we really believe that artists and art is essential to building healthy communities. And so what we do is we invest in artists and their livelihoods. And we do that through grant making. We do that through a fellowship program where we support 3 artists a year in Greater Boston. And we do that through the gallery. And at the gallery, we're really invested in just artist ideas and commissioning new work. And so when we heard that Street Theory Collective was moving to Central Square through the Central Square Business Improvement District as part of their plan to bring arts and culture to making a lively downtown for Cambridge, we were so excited. And so we invited them to make a new piece for our space.
We'll hear more about the Street Theory Collective. I just say one of the weirdest experiences I ever had when Hillary, your colleague, welcomed me in yesterday. You look at these beautiful offices and you take a left and there's a museum in the office. It is unbelievable. Can you describe this incredible work you and 3 of your colleagues did that's on display there through December 5th?
Oh man, the work is goes without mentioning. That like the amazement is the people involved, and I feel like it's a we do a lot of murals, but we've coined the term turning murals into mirrors, and we put a mirror up in the Wagner where like it was reflective of the area and the things that we were inspired when we were in Cambridge. So it's like a home cooked meal, and the Wagner was just hosting.
Is that your kid in there, by the way? Somebody suggested to me it's not. It might be.
She's amused, but she's not in there. She holds the spirit. You know what I mean? She holds the spirit.
And what is that? You know, one of the things when I was watching the video that Hillary was showing me yesterday of the 4 of you doing this, how do you what are the mechanics of 4 incredibly creative people deciding to do one thing together? How do you do that?
They fight a lot.
We love a lot. It was very collaborative. It was extremely collaborative. We have such an interesting process where we can like feed off of each other because we know each other and we've done it for so long. So it was almost like tag team. Like this person's doing something, tag, we do the other thing, and it's a beautiful like almost a melting pot of creative energy.
Is there conflict? I mean, as Marjorie said jokingly, is there?
I don't think there's conflict. No conflict. Like we've known each other for many years, so it was like a beautiful like connection through the work.
Weren't you at Arts for Humanity? Speaking of knowing each other, weren't you like a fellow?
I was.
And he was your guy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, wasn't he? Because you founded. No, I didn't mean that. But you founded the place, and you were. What was that like?
So I was there as a teen and then went back after I worked in corporate for almost a decade, became a full-time working artist, and then got the opportunity to be a fellow. And it was a wild full circle moment, and it allowed me to really dive into my work and reconnect with my creative community.
What's he like as a whatever?
As what?
Yeah, what is he like?
Whatever.
He is supportive, super supportive in the work, yes.
You know, before you mentioned Artists for Humanity, just for people that don't know, that you're talking about the place in South Boston, right? Yeah, just tell people briefly what that is.
Yes, so...
Well, he founded it. Ask him.
This is a pop quiz. This is a pop quiz.
This is what we're doing now? Okay.
Do you want to tell us, Rob?
We can both tell you if you want to. You say something and I'll follow.
All right. It is a wonderful program supporting young people across the city of Boston with different artistic programming and backgrounds. Like there's printmaking, design, a paint studio. So it's a huge mesh of different young people doing work in this space and getting paid for the work.
And it's also a great wedding venue for people that it's less expensive than a lot of places. I looked into it, and you can make that into a gorgeous place down there for weddings, right?
So it's a very artistic experience for all types. So it's a blank canvas for planners and young people that come in with no artistic experience whatsoever could leave with a very strong idea about the honor and a commitment to dedicating themselves to something.
That sounds almost exactly like what I envision the Street Theory Collective being in Cambridge and this new spectacular space. Tell us the whole picture. What is that intended to be, and how's it rolling out?
Well, what's rolling out is that you're looking at a group of artists who are doing work for artists. We're like a for us, by us type of situation. We've been doing this more than half of our lives. We have a very strong, like, family-oriented vibe where, like, now we have a headquarters. And in that headquarters, we have 6,000 square feet to kind of show people better than we can tell them what we have to offer, given the opportunities and, you know, the steering wheel to drive.
Right down the street on Mass Ave from the Wagner Foundation.
541 Mass Ave.
That's fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you're known for these big, huge murals. I mean, the what's over there now is a pretty huge mural, right?
Yes.
I mean, just describe what if people go over there, it's like, what, 25 feet long or 20 feet long?
I think it's longer than 25 feet, but Marker 27, another co-founder,
It's around 40 feet, I think.
40 feet?
Yeah, it's 40
Yeah.
feet in the
Wow.
gallery, so it's amazing.
He provided an aesthetic that, like, his origin is based on how we all met, which was off of, like, you know, doing murals on the street with a respirator that has an arrow going up, and this beautiful floral arrangement that, like, is pretty much making an announcement, because it's like an old I forget the name of a recorder, like the old record player with the speaker on the top.
Gramophone, yeah.
I was about to say some other phone. But the gramophone is making an announcement to the area of Cambridge at large, and, like, again, his visual design aesthetic is something that goes into the inside to welcome people to what is the collective.
What happens this after December 5th? Maybe I should be asking them. Where does it go after it leaves you?
Well, we're very hopeful that it is going into the new space
Great.
down the street,
That's
so then
fabulous.
everybody can come see it.
Great.
So.
And if they want to see it before December 5th, before you go, you're going to tell people how you can come in on Thursdays, make an appointment, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think you just said it, but
you know, well, I sort of did. Yeah, the Wagner Foundation.
Yes.
You can check it out. You know, we talk a lot on this show about the wealth gap in this city, and everybody knows the statistics from the Federal Reserve study. Average wealth of white families is, I think, in 2017, $247,000. Average wealth of a black family, $8. Dominican family, $0. Is there an arts gap in the city of the same? I mean, it seems to me that's what you've been trying to attack for much of the time we've known about you.
Yeah, been trying to, like, just actually legitimize the practice so that the monies or the funding that goes up for it, it's actually up in value. It went from proof of concept to actually legit fellowships and things that you're applying for, that there is a body of money, that the city of Boston's trying its best to make sure that we're keeping up with the arts and culture. And artists who have probably been practicing more than half their lives have, like, deeper budgets that they can go for and apply around the world. It's just a practice that we're catching up on.
Well, it seems to me that Boston's kind of lagged behind. I remember going to your hometown, Philadelphia, years ago, and seeing these gorgeous murals all over the place. We're just
a lot of public art, not just murals, by the way. A lot of public art in Philly.
But I just noticed them, because I'm not seeing them here. We're not caught up yet on that.
I think that we're getting there.
Yeah.
I think that there is a lot of opportunities, similar to what Rob was saying, through the city, through RFPs. And I think that the city is doing a really great job with making the application process a little easier.
Yeah.
I just applied for something. It was a 20-minute application.
Really?
Right?
Oh, God.
And so there are some processes I'm seeing behind the scenes as an artist that's helping us to, like, apply and be comfortable doing this and going through this process.
And to also stay home, because a lot of us leave.
Yeah.
Because the opportunities are here.
Yeah.
So when the opportunities are presenting themselves, we are staying put to, you know, make sure that we contribute to what other places have as a normal situation.
You know, Rob, you were listening to our colleague Jared Bowen when you were interviewed by him on his show. I think you started, did you start, like, just doing graffiti when you were a little kid?
Yeah, and I still do it.
Yeah. yeah. So what'd you do? Where'd you do it?
I did what I would call the alphabet of hip hop in places where, you know, there was a lot of wrong activity happening, and we was just kind of beautifying our neighborhoods. So I wasn't ever getting in trouble for doing it. I just felt the need to pour back into our community to make beautiful images. There is an evolution of just, I mean, the sport does have you just putting your name up everywhere.
Yeah.
But we were doing, like, large, elaborate pieces that evolved into what they call street art now.
Yeah.
So,
and no one came over and gave you a hard time?
Never. They gave us a hard time looking for other things, but it definitely wasn't for the art.
That's great.
All right.
You know, there was a quote I read in an interview with you where you said, Ayana, I'm talking to. I'm sorry. You talked about this gets back to the equity issue about art in neighborhoods of Boston versus like the Seaport and that sort of thing, which is as you said a minute ago, the gap is narrowing. But I want to quote somebody I quote almost all the time here because it applies to the work that you're all doing too in different ways. Andres Nelson said to us a few years ago, the music director of the BSO, when he was on our show, that art matters all the time, but it matters particularly in painful times like we now live in. And and I'm putting words in his mouth because he said it much more artfully than this, but it also gives an opportunity to invite many more people in. Do you find that people see what you do and other artists do maybe differently or more intensely or something when the world is like beating down on their shoulders like it is on so many people right now?
Yeah, it's way more powerful. Like it hits
Why is that,
different.
do you think?
It's an intense form of expression. Like it's literally our souls and our spirits going onto the wall. I think some people they may not create in that way, but I know that myself and the people that are around me, they do that. Like we do that, right? We create from this space that reaches folks. They reach where they're from. It speaks to our stories and it travels, right? So it's almost this like vessel and soul exchange.
So it's different in you as the artist, too. It's not just different in me as the consumer of what you do, but as you as the creator of what you do, you're saying.
It is. If you are tapped into that part of yourself, it is.
How'd this start for you? Rob talked about doing the stuff, in the neighborhood. How'd this start for you? Were you in school or were you
I went to Boston Arts Academy as a young person.
Oh, that's a great school.
Then Artists for Humanity, then Suffolk University. And I'm sharing all of those because my life has been an arts thing, right? I went from high school to college and then worked in marketing for 10 years in real estate marketing and became a full-time working artist. And what I do is I've joined boards like the Arts and Business Council and Boston Arts Academy. Again, a super full circle moment to advocate for the arts as a working artist, right?
Tell people about Boston Arts Academy because you have to apply there, right?
You do. You do have to apply there. Yeah, it's a beautiful school, amazing building, high tech. There is a visual arts department, theater, all sorts of performing and visual arts, and you are doing a mix of academic and a mix of creating throughout your day. In a 4-year, span.
So did it start in 9th grade or 7th grade?
It was 9th.
9th grade. So you were 11 or 12. You said, this is what I want to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's a pivotal age. Yeah.
Can I get your response to the thing I asked Ayana a minute ago about the how people create and receive art in times of great stress, which at least to me this seems to be.
If I can keep it very human. You may not be able to understand what the artist was giving you in a narrative, read it or whatever, but you'll never forget how it made you feel when you saw it. That first time, that first impact. And if there's artists that are doing things with the intention of leaving an impact and then walking away with the knowledge, knowing that they're showing people that they're involved to the thought, but committed to leaving what they leave there, because once they walk away from it, it's no longer theirs. You're doing something in public, you're doing it with that intention, that reason to expand or echo on the stories. But if they made anybody stop for a minute, feel something, or at least look up, I feel like their part was done.
Yeah. Well, that's why I love the murals so much, because you come out of the subway somewhere, or you're just walking down the street somewhere, and all of a sudden you see this figure, these huge colors. Do we put up a picture of the?
Have we
thing?
Posted that yet? Yeah, we should. If we haven't yet,
with the little girl, so
from the
joyous
page of the stage, we'll do there. It is, right? Well, a piece of it right there. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that, and it does make you feel happy.
Well, you got to see it, and being in its physical presence, by the way. I mean, it looks pretty great there, but being in the physical proximity of this is just
And Abby, you said 40 feet long. It's pretty tall, too, right?
Yeah, it's about like 6 feet tall. It's
Yeah,
sort of
that's
like
big. Yeah, that's big.
I mean, it's a significant piece for sure.
Yeah.
And the Wagner's a significant place to host it. Like, that was tailored fit to the spot, man.
Yeah.
You know?
What's the history? Who are the Wagners, by the way?
It's the family
they are.
of Charlotte Wagner and Herb Wagner. They started the foundation around 20 years ago. And since then, it's sort of like investing in Boston, investing in internationally, and sort of thinking about how to do this work. So,
and when you talk about how it makes you feel, I mean, I'm not an artist in any shape or form, but I know that there's something about the single image, whether it's a mural or a painting or a photograph, that's so different to me than something that's moving. It stays the same, and that makes, for me anyway, a much different feeling than seeing something that's in video. I don't know why that is. You're the artist. What do you think about that?
I think it's the story that it holds, and it's the fourth dimension. There's 2D art, there's 3D art, and then there's the fourth dimension, which is the story. Everybody here can tell a story. Mm-hmm. So if you just told that story on what you interpreted when you saw it, like your view, it might be on the same line, it might be totally off, or it may be bringing something brand new to that experience. So, I feel like if painting's been around before TV and people lived with it, that's another thing too. Like, you're living with this piece, and your perception of it is going to be different at different times.
That's true too.
Mm-hmm.
You speak like you paint. Do you know that, by the way? You really is like incredible. We're talking to Rob ProBlak, Gibbs, and Ayana Mack, and today from the Street Theory Collective. We're going to give you websites and all this stuff in a minute. Abby Satinsky is the Arts and Culture Program Officer at the Wagner Foundation. So let's go around the room, starting with you, Rob. When somebody comes to town, either a newcomer just moved here or a friend who's a visitor, and says, I want to see some art, and I want to know what to go to on day one, where do you send them?
I'll send them to my old alma mater, which is Madison Park Technical Vocational High School.
Yes.
And I'll send them there because the art there is, you don't need a membership or you don't need to subscribe to anything. You can walk around the campus and literally be hit with like artwork in and outside at a 180 degree, like you see a mural in one spot, you turn around and you'll see another one.
That's great.
So, the Luminous Fest just lit up the school, literally. And it's an ongoing site that we're trying to have a legitimate, start point. And that's because, I feel like everybody can afford free. The only thing we ask you to do is pay attention. So if you want to do that, just go to the high school and understand that, in that heart of the city of Roxbury, there was some people from around the world that came and contributed to that gallery at the school.
How about you, Ayana? Where would you send people?
I send them around to all of my friends' murals. I do. I am lucky to be surrounded by artists, and I can say, oh, they have a wall here and here, and my own wall. Do all of that. So.
How about you, Abby?
I would send them to, I'm just going to say, we have a creative space problem in Boston. We have affordability problems. And so trying to figure out how, we've lost 100,000 up to 2 million by some estimates of creative space usage in Boston. And so it is very difficult for people to find where artists are working because we don't have enough of those spaces. So I would say I would send them to Boston Art Review. They just launched a new program called Radar, which is a map of artist-run spaces and cultural spaces all across Greater Boston. And you can see everything there.
What's it called again?
It's called Boston Art Review is the magazine.
Boston Art Review.
And then they have a new map called Radar that showcases all of these artists.
So you know where the different murals were around the city and different public artworks around the city.
Yeah, and it's really showing the ecosystem, institutions down to small art spaces. Yeah.
Well, when you say the space is disappearing, Anna was talking about how supportive the city has been of late. Is that everybody's experience that under Wu and Healy talks a lot about art stuff too? Is the city and state more receptive to creativity, to arts, Rob, than it was in the past, or no?
Yes. I think it's just a different type of responsive
What do you mean?
ability. So I was younger, so that wasn't on my mind. You know what I mean? So I keep it that simple. When I got older, and we'll go as close as when the pandemic ended, there was a response to have people outside publicly safe. And with the residency I had at the museum, our mural was the first site that the city gave sanction on for people to practice social distancing and just have that ability to go outside to do something. So under Wu's leadership, or just even I'd have to think about it, but I feel like there's a definite change. We're all living, eating, and paying rent offer like some of these things, but I just feel like there needs to be more destinations and like artist housing and
housing is still a huge thing. Huge issue.
Needs to be something on purpose, like the Piano Factory at some point. back in the day.
Mm-hmm. City Hall's got a lot of great art in it too. She's really put a lot of great art in there. Can you earn a living doing this, or do you have to go back to real estate or whatever you said you were doing before?
I work really, really hard to earn a living doing this.
Yeah.
It's a lot of balancing, but I can do it. It's just a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And there isn't really Piano Factory and the Fenway Art Studio. Those are the only two I know.
Well, there's also Boston Center for the Arts.
There is.
They have a studio program, and that's one of the only open application studio programs that we have in the city. So we're definitely in need of all of those kinds of spaces. Well, Rob is talking about housing, studio spaces. We were just talking about Rob looking for a studio. I mean, that's like a huge issue. Artists need spaces to work.
Mm-hmm. So before we leave, once again, for people who are interested, particularly young people, Street Theory Collective, what opportunities are going to be for people?
The opportunities it's a brand new conversation. So like we're going to be open 3 days a week where, we're going to be offering programming, artist residencies, and just like a gallery space that's going to be changing and reflective of the relationships that we've been building amongst the years. So like, mirroring what the Wagner does with uplifting and showcasing artists, we're going to be doing the same.
And is there a website so people can get information yet?
It's streettheorycollective.com or org.
Can somebody check that out in the control room?
I'm sorry, I'm in the weeds doing the stuff, so like I got to get
it written down here. Correct me if I'm wrong. Street-theory.com.
No, but that is those websites are just who can remember this kind of stuff?
Well.
Or you can Google them, I guess, too. Street Theory Collective or Wagner Foundation.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that may be the... Let me just say, I was so wowed. And Marjorie just had a conflict. Yes, it is so powerful. And if people can get there before December 5th to Wagner or to your place down Mass Ave after December 5th, it's worth seeing. And maybe that's an entry point for a lot of people to be exposed to a lot more fabulous stuff.
I'm going to give the websites again in about 10 seconds if you want time to get a pen. But meanwhile, we have been speaking with Street Theory Collective Director of Programs and Partnerships, Rob ProBlak Gibbs, Street Theory Collective artist Ayana Mack, Abigail Satinsky, did I say that right? Mm-hmm. Arts and Culture Program Officer at the Wagner Foundation. Okay, here are the websites. wfound.org/Wagner-gallery.
Oh, please. I mean, come on. I mean, really. Wagner, Google Wagner Foundation, right? I mean, really. What's the next one?
Jim.
What's the next one?
Street-theory.com, which is not
that's
that
okay.
hard.
We can remember
Street-theory.com.
Is that okay with you, Rob? Street-theory.com? Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay,
good luck. And by the way, come back. I mean, as the Street Theory Collective starts getting moving, come back and let's talk some more, okay?
Yeah, let's definitely do that.
Yeah,
wonderful.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for
Congratulations on all your great work. Coming up after this quick break, we're going to open the lines to get your thoughts on food delivery apps and services, modern marvel or culture killer. We're going to ask you, do you ever go out for dinner anymore? You just sit at home on your couch and order out delivery, and you're ruining all the cuisine enjoyment in Boston. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Arun Roth. Coming up on GBH's All Things Considered, with SNAP set to run out amid the government shutdown, residents and advocates take to Beacon Hill demanding action. And on the Extra Point this week, the World Cup games are set to play in Gillette Stadium, but after a recent comment from President Trump, some are wondering if that is still certain. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you and Mass General Brigham Health Plan, providing coverage plans for individuals, families, employers, and retirees with benefits that help you live in your moment. More at massgeneralbrighamhealthplan.org.
And Paquin Entertainment Group, presenting Moonwalkers, a 360-degree immersive experience narrated by Tom Hanks, featuring NASA footage, astronaut interviews, and more. Now open. Tickets at moonwalkersboston.com.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan and Jim Braude, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Not at the library today, or what day is today? Tuesday or Wednesday, but hopefully soon, and we'll let you know. So last year, this is unbelievable, nearly 3/4 of all restaurant orders were not eaten in the restaurant, but taken home via delivery or takeout, and delivery numbers specifically are way up across geographic and age demographics. It seems like everybody has become accustomed to getting a sweet treat on demand. But a new piece in The Atlantic asks what we're losing out on when we choose convenience and sweatpants over everything else. Food delivery has existed in some shape and form for a long time. Think about your neighborhood house of pizza or the Chinese restaurant that delivered to the burbs. But a combination of the pandemic on one hand and the rise of third-party delivery apps on the other has completely changed how we're eating and how we're eating out. So the lines are open at 877-301-8970. Is food delivery just one of our many consumer vices and addiction of convenience we can't seem to shake? What about the fact that the prices are out of control? Why are we still paying delivery fees for an already expensive cup of coffee? Is it something we just can't quit? In my experience, Marjorie, has been not only the price is higher than if you get it in the restaurant, even if you get takeout, you go get it yourself, as opposed to delivery, often the portions are smaller. And,
really?
And oh yeah, in my experience.
Takeout restaurants, the portions are smaller?
No, delivery is found to be, it's not across the board, but it is.
Is takeout smaller?
No. I don't think so, no. And what happened to the neighborhood restaurant where you have your kids' birthday parties and low-key gatherings? We're losing out on a third space that's right there waiting for us to walk through the door. 877-301-8970. I went on far too long there. The basic thing was, what role is delivery of food, particularly from restaurants as opposed to purely takeout joints, having in your life? And based on the data in this Atlantic piece, it's colossal. Again, 3/4 of all restaurant orders were not eaten in the restaurant. They're via takeout or delivery, and the thing that's exploding the fastest is delivery. People order. I have friends who order a cookie, and I mean an expensive cookie, like a $6, $7 cookie, plus the fee because they want a cookie.
Friends?
Late at night. Well, I'm not a big sweet tooth. I'm a big eater, but I'm not a big sweet tooth thing.
Okay.
And by the way, I almost always go for a takeout. If I don't want to eat in a restaurant, I can't eat in a restaurant. The whole delivery thing creeps me out. The people who deliver it are paid generally very poorly. You got to make sure you tip them if they come. Secondly, do you know that most of these delivery services totally screw the restaurant? The commission to the restaurant is anywhere from 5 to 30%. You with me on this? Or you're not on this?
I'm listening.
Okay, the point is, it's bad for the restaurant too. If it turns out you want to order a restaurant and you can't go eat in the restaurant, then order it and go take out from the damn restaurant. Call them on the phone and then go take out from the restaurant rather than having it delivered. Obviously, Marjorie's not nearly as passionate about this as I am.
Well, everything
but
with
it's a
food,
big deal.
I can't compete with you in the food front.
No, that's a good point. Thank you. Okay. 877-301-8970. What are your takeout behaviors? Your delivery behaviors?
There's rules on takeout.
No, it's not. I keep saying takeout. We're talking about delivery. Delivery rules, delivery
doesn't takeout
protocol.
count?
No, it does not count. No, because as I just said to you, the damage to the restaurant and the additional
but
cost
we're
to
also
you.
talking about the cultural thing of sitting in a restaurant in the neighborhood.
Let's focus on delivery. I got it. Okay, you can do that too, but let's focus on delivery. Sorry we're disorganized, but what can I tell you? 877-301-8970 is the number.
I never get delivery, so I would be able to participate in this conversation. No.
Why?
I go get it.
Because you can't figure it out.
Well, I don't want to be in all these apps. I don't want to be in DoorDash and Toast and all the rest of those places.
So you're doing the right thing and you didn't even know you were doing it.
I was unaware that I was doing
Do you
the
know
right
that it's
thing.
more expensive? That not only do they charge you the fee and whatever the hell it is, the fee, but 99% of the time, if you look at the menu on a restaurant online, let's say an entree is $15. If you order to deliver the same entree, which may be smaller, as I say, even if it isn't smaller, is $17.50. So you're really getting screwed, and the restaurant's getting screwed.
The other thing is, even with pizza, when you go pick it up, it's hotter than when you get it delivered. That's my other thing. I don't want it to be like lukewarm and have to put the food, because I'm not much of a good cook, as
I
you know.
just bought an air fryer. That's the key to that problem, by the way.
Is that what you do? You put it in the air fryer?
Everything.
Well, I don't have an air fryer at the moment. So I just go pick it up, and, it makes you a lot less stressed if you can't cook. If you have people over for dinner, just get takeout.
You've never ordered delivery?
I do not think I have ever ordered. I think I did during.
Do you know anybody who gets delivery?
Yes, my neighbors. My neighbors get delivered all the time.
What does that mean, all the time?
They get coffee in the morning. They get pastry in the morning.
They get coffee delivered? No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
They don't make their own coffee?
I'm not, going into detail asking them their questions.
They get coffee delivered?
I see it on the porch, yeah. Stuff from Tate.
Really?
Yeah.
They should order from Flour.
From Flour, that's right. Well, so a lot of people do it. I mean, my whole neighborhood is full of people getting delivery.
Really?
Yeah, it's in Brookline.
That's really
odd. It's out of control.
Don't you know, this is not about the joy of the restaurant, but how about the joy of the restaurant?
Well, that's what you just told me. I couldn't discuss that.
You can discuss it.
I couldn't talk about that.
No, I said I wanted to
You only want to talk about delivery,
okay, fine.
so I've been eliminated from
you're allowed
the discussion.
No, I take it back. I rescind my directive. You may talk about in-restaurant eating. Let's take some calls.
Somebody just made a good point before. That one of the reasons they get takeout is because drinks cost a lot. If they want to have a few beers or glasses of wine with their dinner, liquor is very expensive if you go out and drink.
Yeah.
Money is the reason, in other words. Okay.
No, they're nuts. I'm telling you, if you order more than one dish, the amount of money you're going to spend on a drink, you lose by virtue of the fact that the prices are jacked up when the stuff is delivered. They don't know what they're talking about.
Well, he's. I was going to mention it before, but he's a takeout person.
Oh, we can't do that. We can't bring that up. No, we can bring that up. Let's go to Amanda and Wellesley.
Okay.
Amanda, you're first on BPR. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi, I love you guys. You guys are the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do, and I got my husband addicted to listen to you guys as well.
Oh, good.
So, speaking of my husband, I know, right? We went, one of our rare pleasures is while the kids are at school is to sneak out and go have lunch together, because it's like you don't have to, pay for child care and whatever.
Very romantic, Amanda.
I know, right? It's so romantic. And we went to a great restaurant. It's Lockhart and Wellesley, had some tacos, but the poor guy there could not help us because he was expediting like so many DoorDash orders. There was nobody in the entire restaurant except us. And we just kind of sat there, and he's just expediting takeout. And it was like, there's nobody's going out to lunch anymore. Like, we're the only ones kind of there. And it's just kind of a bummer that, that ambiance that you kind of get when you go out and you meet somebody for lunch, and, it's just fun. It's like a ghost town in the restaurant. So I just wanted to share that.
Well, you shared it beautifully, Amanda. Thank you for the call.
But that does kind of take away some of the enjoyment. If you're like the only people, if there's only like 4 people in the restaurant, you do feel kind of weird. I get it, Amanda. Thank you for the call. Listen to this one. My son and his wife invite us over for dinner. They order delivered takeout. I dig into my pocket to contribute, but the fact that they never make a home-cooked meal when I come is somewhat offensive. It's from Dan.
I'm sorry, we're not allowed to discuss home-cooked meals in this segment either. I forgot there are 8 things we can't talk about, and that's one of them. I just mentioned one, and that's number 2.
Okay. And here's somebody else that says, I never use delivery services. Nothing brings me more happiness than a nice meal out in a restaurant. If I can't go there myself and sit down, it's not happening.
Well, there's a middle ground. Even though we're not allowed to talk about this, there's takeout, which is generally cheaper, and you get full orders. And the restaurant, again, we care about small restaurants.
We do.
Independent restaurants. Independent restaurants get totally screwed by these delivery services, and the worker gets totally screwed by the delivery service. So delivery should not be part of people's behaviors.
You're supposed to tip on takeout. I read the instructions.
And I was going to ask you, no, of course you tip on takeout. They still did the work to prepare the meal.
Well, I just that we have 4 rules about...
what are the other rules?
Always tip on takeout.
Yes.
Order directly from the restaurant, because third-party apps like DoorDash are seamless.
Them.
Yeah, in some cases, they charge as much as 30%. The app instead of the restaurant. That's
Thank
what
you. I said that.
Leave a personal note with your order.
Yeah.
I've not done that. Have you?
Every
and
time.
You should say no to plastic utensils. You do not need all that plastic cutlery. You know what's really bad about takeout, though? All the plastic you get. Almost nobody has the recyclable stuff.
No, a lot of them use paper, cardboard these days.
Some of them do, but I've seen an awful lot of
plastic. Now, do you leave a note when you do this?
I have not left a note.
You know what note I generally leave, which I stopped doing? I leave notes all the time, and what I've stopped doing, the note I left for years, which didn't work out so well, is I would say, do you know who I am? And when nobody knew who I was, it sort of ruined the whole experience. So I decided that I'd come with a different note.
877-301-8970. Let's go to Pete in Hingham. Thank you for calling.
Hello, Pete. We'll tell you what we're laughing at.
Thanks for laughing.
Our pleasure. How are you?
Good. I currently work do DoorDash delivery. Yeah.
Jim doesn't like you.
No, I don't like him. I like him personally.
I know, I heard.
Personally, I love you, Pete. Go ahead.
Thanks. I can remember that in your next order.
Go ahead, Pete. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's all right. No, just sometimes the amount I get paid from DoorDash you're right, is not that great. Doesn't go a lot to me. The part I work for mostly is tips. But sometimes I don't get any from the customers at all.
Is that true?
Oh, God.
Yeah. But Domino's Pizza also put me through. I worked for Domino's Pizza in the late 80s, early 90s, and that's what got me through college. Because delivery was all the way back then, too.
How do you feel when someone doesn't tip you?
Well, people leave it on the door. I've seen people leave come with the food and leave it on the door, and there's nobody there. That's what happens sometimes, Pete, right? They're just not there.
You leave it. They say leave it at the door, then I don't find out I got nothing until after I left. I'm like, I can't say anything.
That's right.
Say?
But here's what I suggest, Pete.
Said something, and then they get banned.
Pete, if you're going back to a place that didn't tip you the last time, you should dampen the bottom of the bag so when they carry the, you know what I mean, Pete?
Okay.
No, I've been doing customer service since I went to school for hotel restaurant at UMass Amherst. I've been doing this for 35 years.
So, Pete,
in the restaurant industry,
how stressful is it delivering for DoorDash? I bet it is.
Yeah, in the beginning, I'm 56. Learning the app was kind of tough in the beginning, but I've been in the industry for 35 years. Once you learn it a couple times, it's really easy. So
how much can you make on a good Friday night delivering for DoorDash? How much can you make?
I usually do early mornings, but I've made going out on a Sunday morning, starting 6 in the morning, and make $150 by noon.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
And I have some friends that do pizza delivery for a couple other pizza places. They'll make $200-$300 in a night.
Really?
Easy.
Wow.
Yeah, for some of the big chains like Domino's, from what I've heard, because a friend of mine owns a few. So.
Hey, Pete, that was a great call from beginning to end. Call us again. Really appreciate it. Now, here's an on-air personality whose name I can't mention in Boston media.
Yeah.
If all these young adults would stop ordering delivery, maybe they could afford to buy a house, which is true. And this woman goes on. A 20-something woman told me the other day she ordered Taco Bell to be delivered. This is incredible. At the exact time she arrived home from work. I said, why the F didn't you just go through drive-through to pick the damn thing up? She's totally right there.
I think a lot of people do now with so many mothers working outside the house. It's a time thing. I think people get takeout and delivery because they don't have time to cook dinner.
Yeah. By the way, an anonymous texter says, did Marjorie have a new jacket delivered during the show? Marjorie, it turns out, don't ask why, started the show as a very investigative listener, figured out wearing a BUR jacket, and then she realized she doesn't work at WBUR.
No,
she works at GBH.
I'm in the wrong studio, it turned out.
So she's in the wrong place. But so
Yes.
she got rid of it, and we have a new, she
I
can
have
get
my
rid of it.
sweater on now.
She does.
I'm not wearing the jacket anymore.
Yeah.
I was being disloyal. Now, Woody, the UPS driver, is very upset about it. He says, just say no to delivery.
Yeah.
We don't know why he feels that way.
Woody, text us back and tell
Yeah.
us why you have that position. Let's go to Fernando in Medford. Hey, Fernando, how are you?
I'm well. How are you today?
Excellent.
Fine,
thank you.
So I just wanted to tell a story.
Please.
My wife and I were walking down the street, and we saw this kid in a moped, and he clearly had an iced tea kind of strapped to the back of his moped. And I told my wife, I said, I can't believe somebody would have that delivered. And then sure enough, he pulls over like 2 houses from where we were walking in that direction. So my wife says, no, it's probably his own drink. And I said, let me ask. And I go ask the kid, I said, hey, are you delivering this? And he says, yeah. And I said, how much is this going to cost the person the recipient of this drink? And he said, well, it's $15 for the service and it's $6 for the tea and then whatever they tip me. And then my wife and I just looked at each other. We were like, okay, this is like, $25 or just to get a drink on a Saturday morning. So that's all I had to say.
Well, that's
exactly.
And by the way, the only thing I add to that conversation is not only how insanely expensive it is, but the place from which the delivery person is coming is getting screwed too, because the delivery business, not the deliverer, is taking a huge cut of the action. So that's a good example. Fernando, thank you for your story. We really appreciate it. It's bad from beginning to end, Marjorie. Would you agree?
It's bad.
Does anybody believe that Marjorie has never had food delivered in her whole life?
I have. I had one time when my kids were over, we did get DoorDash.
You never got a pizza? You're a big pizza eater.
The pizza joint I go to is like a 5-minute walk from my house.
Yeah, but what if you're in like your robe? Do you have a robe?
I do have a robe.
So if you
I'm
put
very
your,
fond of my robe.
Exactly, so am I. So
I'm not usually in my robe 24/7 like somebody else I know.
No, I'm not in my robe when I'm at work. I'm in robe the other 21 hours.
Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't worn your robe to work, frankly.
Okay, fine. Fine. By the way, it's true. Mina texts, is that our friend?
Yes.
You aren't wearing the jacket anymore,
Oh, no.
but the BUR logo is still very visible. In fact, even more visible than before.
I'm turning it inside
This is not
out.
an anti-BUR thing at
It's
all.
not.
We love our
It's a very good
colleagues, in
station.
Boston, but it's
not
just,
as good as this one,
It's
of
not where
course.
we work,
That's
so
not
we
where we
figured
work.
it's probably
Okay, I've
most
turned it
people
out.
who work here would actually, if they were wearing something with a
Yep.
logo, might actually think to wear a GBH thing because that's where you work, Marjorie. You know
I
that.
have the Charles River Apparel logo, so you can
She
see
works
that.
at Charles River Apparel. That's right. She's worked there a long time.
Yeah,
She's
you know,
very happy.
the person asked a
Look
question.
at this. Read the top anonymous texter. This is exactly what I'm talking
A
about.
$7 salad and paid $26
That's
for
what
it to be delivered?
that happens with it's just Fernando said. You tack on all the crap, the fee, the whatever, the service, and you add a tip to it, which you're supposed to do, as we know, and you're talking insane amounts of money.
Okay, this is a person that's attacking all the millennials and not the millennials, the Gen Xers or the Gen Zers, whatever they are, 20-somethings. Did the Atlantic article include demographic data? I am so tired of young adults whining about their expenses, how they can't afford the American dream when they regularly use DoorDash or other services.
Well, that's what this media person texted a few minutes ago. They could afford a house if they didn't do all the delivery thing. Probably a mansion, actually.
Well, what I've never understood is why people would spend, I don't mean to get any coffee places, but to go buy a cup of coffee every day, especially if you go to a place like Starbucks. I mean, the Starbucks are disappearing, as we know. That's a lot of money.
Disappearing.
I mean, you could be like $20 a week, right?
Where do we get our coffee during the show? We make it ourselves.
That's right. We make it ourselves.
And thanks to a friend of ours, the environmentally bad pods.
That's right.
We have a permanent pod.
Environmentally correct pods.
Into which we deposit the coffee
That's
ourselves.
Right. We pot up.
We pot up. We are totally potted up, Marjorie and I. Marjorie's really potted up most nights. Okay, Kevin and Randolph, you are next.
You're here during the day, Jim.
Hello, whatever it is. Hello, Kevin. Hi.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
I would like to know what percentage of these additional delivery services that have proliferated are made up by people who simply don't want to cook at home, and what percentage is a loss of sit-down meals in a restaurant. Because I know that preparing meals has fallen out of favor in this country. It's been so for a long time. And I think a lot of this isn't necessarily that there are fewer people going to restaurants. It's that fewer people are deciding, this guy down the street has a really nice fruity di mare Fra Diavolo. I'm going to call that instead of opening up this can of beans.
Yeah.
And I think I everything my wife and I eat in this house, I cook. I love to cook. It's a passion that I have. We eat home-cooked meals every single day.
Oh,
wow. There are people,
lovely.
There are people who think macaroni and cheese out of a box is
home-cooked meal.
And now they can.
You're talking to one, Kevin.
Yeah, now they can call a restaurant right down the street and order anything they want and have it in half an hour. And I have a feeling that's probably the greater part of that increased number. I just don't see people liking to cook anymore. We know we've heard all this stuff about processed foods and how easy it is to make stuff from the middle of the supermarket that is basically just crap. So now you don't have to just eat crap. You can spend $80 for a hot dog from Joe's Hot Dogs down the street.
Nothing like a good hot dog. You know, Kevin, by the way, not only was the content of your call very thoughtful, you did something that made Marjorie and me both joyous, is in the middle of your call, you said less and you switched to the correct fewer, which is one of our pet things. So we want to congratulate you and thank you for giving us a little lilt in our step.
Marion.
Kevin, thank you for an excellent call. We really appreciate it. A lot of good calls. But I think
Kevin made a good point. I think a lot of people don't cook anymore. And I think it has partly to do with if you work till 6 o'clock at night, you got to pick up the kids at school or whatever. You got to do it all on the weekend you can't start cooking dinner at 6:30 at night, right?
Well, how long does it take to make prune chicken? I mean, that's all you can make.
Days.
Tuna fish.
It's days.
Marjorie brings in roast vegetables today.
I did. Were they great?
And they were fabulous. She shared some with me, and she says, I make two things. Tuna fish, which is not exactly something you make, and roast vegetables. Anonymous texter, you started a horrible thing. I just went online to order a BUR jacket, but I couldn't get one delivered. So you're
sorry.
It's Marjorie wore one if you just tuned in.
Yeah. Paul in Cambridge says these .com delivery services look like generally e-commerce to me. Why would I tip an Amazon driver? It's different for me if the restaurant is providing the delivery.
Because the Amazon driver is not Jeff Bezos. The Amazon driver is him or her or their self not making a lot of money.
But,
I mean, come on.
And I think almost no one tips them because they're dropping things off at all different hours of the day. They're going into the house. They're leaving the house. They're not.
This is a really sad story.
What?
This is really sad. James from the car says, I can't afford a house to have DoorDash delivered to, unfortunately. No, the housing is so expensive, as we discussed with Mayor de Blasio
I'm
earlier.
sorry. Don't give up.
That's really...
Did you see the story today about all the people getting laid off because of AI?
Yeah.
Thousands.
I know,
thousands. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine if you just spent 4 years in college spending $90,000 a year or whatever, you take your loans, whatever, to become a coder and find out they don't need you when you get out of school?
It's pretty horrible. By the way, it's going to... I mean, we discussed this with Nick Quah yesterday.
They're going to be DoorDash drivers.
What?
They're going to be DoorDash drivers.
Wow. Not only is he back, but he's dressed up like a grown-up kind of thing.
You are all duded up today. You look very handsome, Jared Bowen.
No, Jared Bowen. First of all, why are you dressed up?
Because it's a speaker series tonight, and I just dressed for the day.
At 1 o'clock?
Well, I don't really have time to go home and change.
Okay, fine.
Who's starring tonight? Who's the speaker?
Vladimir Murakaza, who is the last prisoner released in the prisoner swap and who won the Pulitzer Prize for commentary for the letters he had ferried out of prison in Russia.
Wow.
And who, as of last week, has an arrest warrant out against him by Vladimir Putin for more of what he has said about the war in Ukraine, etc.
Wow.
That's pretty scary.
Before Jared weighs in on the delivery issue, here's an anonymous texter. So let me get this straight. Marjorie makes tuna and roast vegetables. She wears a BUR jacket to work at GBH, searches online for Harriet Heinemann, but never gets takeout. Is that a fair summary? That was an excellent summary.
I get takeout a lot. I don't get delivery.
But that's
I go
what
to the restaurant and I pick it up because I'm intimidated by all these delivery services.
Nobody cares that much about that. Okay, fine. What is?
Do you get takeout or delivery?
Delivery.
I don't do that very much actually. There is a Thai place around the corner from my house, and I go just pick it up there. I like to walk. Yeah.
I like to go walk too. All you have in your refrigerator is a bottle of vodka anyway, so you couldn't really eat it all, could you?
Well, I would have plenty of place to store it.
That's right.
Yeah, I should get two, and then I have one for the next night.
Yeah, I don't like. It's hotter if you get takeout than it is delivered.
Well, obviously, it's right in the restaurant. I mean, obviously, it's hotter.
Well, that's a big deal.
Well, it is, but by the time you get it home, it's like it was delivered by you.
No, it's not. Warm. You could be the fourth person on the delivery list.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Person.
I take it back then. I feel bad.
Or the DoorDash person. I want to be the first person. That's why I go get takeout.
I'm not arguing against. Pick it up is my position, or eat in the restaurant. Forget.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't read that. Do not read that. Okay. We're in enough trouble already. Let's not do this. Yeah. Okay. Okay. What are you doing there?
So we're going to be talking to our Veterans Services Secretary John Santiago about the Massachusetts Veterans Legacy Trail, which was just unveiled. This is a really extraordinary, comprehensive effort to document all of the war memorials, monuments, plaques all around Massachusetts. Of course, just in time for Veterans Day, and it's also part of the Mass 250 effort.
By the way, before you leave him, John Santiago, who was a state rep, is an ER physician at Boston Medical Center while he's the secretary, and I think is still serving either in the reserves or the active military. Some incredible. What else? I'm sorry.
I don't know if you love the movie Clue as much as I do from about 40 years ago.
Yes. I saw it.
Leslie Ann Warren is going to be on the show
today. Oh my God!
Where she played Miss Scarlet, so she's going to share her memories of Madeline Kahn and others.
Fabulous.
And then Kiernan Schmidt, the author of Secret Boston, An Unusual Guide, will give us Halloween weird and strange and interesting things to do around our region.
Excellent.
Ask that person if someone comes to the door and they're over 6'3", if they should get candy. Our position is one of the few things we agree upon.
Wait, are you doing that? Are you asking for a friend?
We're going to do that later this
year.
No, later this week. We're going to do that because we do it every year for the last 80 years.
He's
I know,
6'5".
but I'm not. Believe me. Can you imagine me knocking on somebody's door?
Do you think you're shrinking?
That's funny.
Just tell him I'm dressed as Jim Browdy.
I'm shrinking. Yeah. Actually, I was 6'5" and 5'9". It's horrible.
It's a whole different world.
Okay, we got to go, Marjorie.
Okay.
Show's over.
Thank you for listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio. Keep up with us 24/7 wherever our podcast, or check out our TikTok page. Tune in tomorrow. We're not at the Boston Public Library, but we're speaking with Boston Globe travel writer Christopher Muther, who's a riot, Sky and Telescope editor Kelly Beatty, James Beard award-winning chef Gabrielle Hamilton, 2 local chefs that made the New York Times list of 50 best restaurants in America, Jody Adams of La Padrona, Aidan McGee of McGonagle's Pub in Dorchester. We want to thank our terrific crew, Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, Maddie Geyer, ran our YouTube stream today. Thank you, Maddie. Our engineer, John the Claw Parker. Our executive producer is Jenny Bologna, and whoever sent us all those great texts. Culture Show's right after us. He's Jim Browdy. Oops, you're Jim Browdy.
I am.
I'm Marjorie Egan.
Okay.
Thank you for tuning in.
We're done.
Bye.
Bye.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you. And Newbury Court, serving Concord, Massachusetts for 30 years as a not-for-profit continuing care retirement community dedicated to older adults. More at newburycourt.org. Recent deadly flash floods have wreaked havoc in the U.S. and beyond. NOVA explores why dangerous floods are on the rise and what can be done to protect more lives when they strike. Watch Superfloods tomorrow at 9 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org.